chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos. By the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another Caro-covered episode of Straight Chillin', the weekly horror movie review show where you chillin', we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for this evening. This is episode number 319, recorded on Sunday, May 16th, 2021. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the classic, the original Evil Dead from 1981. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hey, bringing it back. Bringing the bump.
Bringing it back. Much requested. Hey bump.
Yeah, it's short,
of
sweet,
unknown origin.
simple. I don't know. It's like, it reminds me of that, I don't know, the little Russian dance from, what
Okay, so like, where is he going with this right now?
Well, it reminds me of Vladimir Putin specifically, is what it reminds me of.
Hey, that's
Yep.
Putin, all right.
The word hey, Putin. Rootin' tootin' Putin. Last but not least, calling in from Jacksonville, Florida, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, it's your boy, Deadite Stains. Boys, let's wrap it up. The old Evil Dead.
Wrapping up the whole series
The
tonight.
whole series.
That's crazy.
Ending where the series began.
Yeah. Somehow
Yeah,
the first one is the last that we're going to cover.
Huh.
Systematic is what I would call us.
Well thought out.
A well-oiled machine here.
We plan it all.
Yes.
We always have.
But yeah, we are going to do a little straight chillin' history today too, because we are finishing out a series. We haven't finished out a whole lot of overall, especially like classic horror series.
Yeah.
Because
True.
I know we haven't. The only one I could think of that's comparable to this one as far as just the shorter size would be like Scream, because Scream only has 4.
Yeah, maybe
and we
Scream,
haven't
yeah.
covered those. So I don't know. It's
This
kind
is-
of a big day. We're wrapping up a huge kind of horror franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We've done a lot of Halloween movies, but not all of them for sure. We've
Not
only
yet. Yeah.
covered the
There's
original
so many,
Scream,
yeah.
but we got the others to do.
We still haven't
eventually.
covered Halloween 2, for God's sakes. Jesus.
Yeah, we got to do
A
that.
Troll 2, guys. I mean, Jesus, what are we doing?
I know, right? We got a lot of work. Left.
We got 7 more years to go, boys.
And then our sentence is over, I guess.
14 short
This is all
years.
court mandated. Did we not make that clear?
We don't want to do this. We have to.
This is year 7, though, boys. This is year 7.
True.
We're in it.
It was either start a horror movie podcast or go to jail.
Yeah.
So we...
7
I
minutes
mean-
in heaven, boys.
6 of one, half dozen of the other, you might say, but we chose.
Before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. The June poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this June. The theme for June is vehicular manslaughter, and the 3 movies you can vote between are Christine, Joyride, and Rubber.
Bob, how are the numbers looking? Still neck and neck and neck?
Yeah, they're all still pretty close, but the tides have turned.
Okay.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Christine is in the lead now.
Oh, Rubber has fallen away.
Christine. Well, all right. Well, we're about to see the kid from fucking Dressed to Kill right back at it, I guess.
Yeah.
You remember that?
actually.
Yeah,
you're
that's the
right.
guy, right? That's the same guy, right?
I think
Please tell
so.
me I didn't fuck that joke up horribly.
I think so.
All right, great. Glad that we...
Probably.
That's
yeah.
surprising.
If I didn't
'cause
fuck it up by getting it wrong, I certainly fucked it up by demanding an explanation.
Rubber has been in the lead most of the month.
Yeah.
So, like since the beginning. So, all right, Christine. I have seen Rubber. I haven't seen the other 2 films. What about y'all?
You've seen
I've seen-
Joyride.
Oh, I have seen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Well,
I forgot
yeah.
the third option. I'm not gonna lie. I have
Wow.
not seen.
Well,
Christine.
oiled.
I've seen all 3.
Yeah, I've seen all 3. It's been a while since I've seen Christine outright sober. but everything. But I remember them all the other ones pretty well. The other two pretty well.
Here's a little fun fact, though. I don't know if anybody knows this outside of us, but since we're talking Straight Chillin' history today, we did a little like reboot of Straight Chillin', where we bought new equipment and decided like, yeah, we're going to continue this podcast around episode 60 or
62,
something. 62.
62.
And our first test was Joyride, and we like debated whether we should actually release it or not. And we ended up not. So it's another like lost episode.
Yeah.
We did a lost I dropped a lost episode of VHS. Well, two,
yeah,
VHS
on YouTube,
2 on YouTube that you can check out our original like kind of lost episode that never got posted. But do we even have that Joyride original?
Who knows, man? I mean, I didn't even know that existed. I don't remember recording that.
There was a problem with the audio or something.
Yeah.
I feel like
that was new equipment. That makes sense.
Yeah, that
I don't know, man.
VHS 2 and Scream 2. Those are like and our live episodes are both lost.
Yeah.
too. Those are the lost shows.
I don't know, man. Based on the wisdom of the movie we're reviewing tonight, I don't know. Maybe we should let some things stay lost.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's not like you're getting gold here, but it is kind of it's an interesting thing.
In a podcast where you regularly get, fucking just pebbles and rocks, there are a few turds in the lost bin. Ain't no gold in these hills. I'm sorry.
In other Patreon news, we do have not one but two brand new Patreon supporters. We got to give some shouts outs to. Big thanks to Logan and Diego for showing us some love on the Patreon. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Every dollar you contribute goes right back into the show. It helps us keep the lights on and means a lot to us. As is tradition around these parts, we owe you guys the straight chilling salute. This goes out to Logan and Diego. Here you go.
Slap my ass.
And one more.
Slap me in the ass.
All the ass slaps.
This is a
happy ass slaps to all.
This is a horror power couple that is just slapping the straight chilling asses this week.
Oh yeah, we love it. Also,
gotta keep it in the family.
Yeah.
I maintain that once Logan and Diego become wed, the straight
once
chilling
they do, no pressure.
straight chilling trio right here is going to officiate. That's gonna happen.
I'll get my certification online. I will do it. I'll pay for the plane ticket as long as it's within the same country I'm currently living.
So as long as you don't move,
that is a significant caveat for you.
It is.
Go ahead and like legally excuse myself in case I'm out of the country.
Okay.
You're currently living at that time, I assume, is what you mean.
at that time.
And not right now. So America. Oh, great. Perfect.
We'll just zoom you in. You'll be a talking head. And
it's happened before.
That's what everybody wants at their wedding.
The great and powerful Soju chimes in.
You may now slap your bride on the ass.
you may now slap the bride ass. Dude,
now let's figure out let's hunt some cooters at this wedding. That's what we should do.
Where's the creepy
Suss
uncle?
them out.
Everybody's got a creepy
Dude,
uncle.
our first straight chilling wedding? Wow. First of many, I hope.
It would only be Malort. That's it's an open bar, but just stocked with Malort.
Time to toast Malort.
And Red Stag.
It's Malort, Red Stag, and Soju, of course.
The bridal party
and
gets
Soju.
treated to the Red
Oh,
Stag.
man. The trip split.
Oh,
damn.
The trip split. That's the trip
We got
split.
some planning to do.
Apparently,
we're not only officiating the wedding, we're also the wedding planner.
Yeah, we're planning.
Oh yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that J-Lo movie. I know how it's done.
Totally. I think that's all we got regarding Patreon. Juice, do you have anything to add? Any new shit?
Actually, my house is clean again. My house has been clean most weeks. That's not acceptable. I'll try to be better and dirty it up for you guys.
Filth up your house, please.
Yep, I'll try.
Tight. Sounds like our houses are clean.
This house is clean.
Tight. Let's go ahead and get to the main event. We're talking about The Evil Dead, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, you got that box, right?
You know I got that baby blue in my
I
hand.
had a strong assumption that you did.
Usually, most weeks you do.
True. That's true. Talking Evil Dead from 1981, written and directed by Sam Raimi, starring Bruce Campbell, Ellen Sandweiss, Richard Domanicore, and some other folks. Plot synopsis is as follows. It has been called ferociously original, relentlessly terrifying, and the ultimate experience in grueling horror. Now, nearly 30 years after it's first unleashed, the forces of the Deadites upon our world, the moment that millions of fans have waited for have finally arrived. The first ever Blu-ray edition of The Evil Dead.
Oh, man. Talk about the transfers, please.
Features a stunning new HD transfer, personally supervised by writer-director Sam Raimi himself, etc., etc. Also...
This is what you get when you pay that premium dollar for those blues.
Don't tell me about the movie. Tell me about the transfer.
I highly recommend picking up this blue on Anchor Bay. It's pretty. Also, there's a 4K out now that I don't own. According to IMDb, the plot synopsis is 5 friends travel to a cabin in the woods where they unknowingly release flesh-possessing demons. Flesh? Flesh-possessing? That's a weird way to put it. Gentlemen's, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
Oh man, this is gonna be a tough episode for me because I've seen this movie many times to the point where I know it almost back to front. It's almost a comfort movie for me at this point, and it's one of those seminal movies that sort of like got me to become a horror guy, you might say, to be into horror outwardly. So yeah, I would recommend it. If you're a horror fan, you haven't seen this, you fucked up already. And if you, this is not like every movie. There's caveats to this, but like this is a product of its time, and it's absolutely worth checking out, if only for its cultural relevance, which is pretty significant, I would say. But from a totally biased perspective, this movie fucking rules, and you should watch it.
Tight. Juice, what about you?
I had never seen this movie before, and I think except for the remake that we covered, that ended up being my pick. I was like kind of looking at what we've covered this series so far, but every time I've seen one of these movies, I've seen it for the first time covering it. So Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, which again was my pick for the poll pick that month, and now this one is every time it's the first time I've seen it, and since I don't know if I've seen any of them since, which is kind of wild. Army of Darkness, I actually would recommend. I can see why this is considered a horror classic. I want to get into the discussion about whether it is the one that kind of set up the cabin tropes in horror, because it's 1981, pretty early, super low budget, but I think it has a lot of admiration from me, not having a nostalgic value attached to it. I can see why this is considered a horror classic for its time, and kind of blows my mind thinking about people seeing this for the first time in 1981. I was like, damn, that was probably a wild ride. So yeah, this I would recommend for some classic 80s horror, and this was my first time. Bob,
Yo,
how about you? Was this your first watch, and would you recommend?
I've probably seen The Evil Dead maybe 3 or 4 times now. I remember seeing it when I was pretty young and like it not really hitting for me, but I feel like each time I revisit it, it clicks more and more for me. Definitely would recommend, especially if you're listening to this show and somehow you have not seen The Evil Dead. It's a classic, like Juice touched on. It establishes a lot of horror movie tropes that as soon as you see them on screen, you're going to connect with and be like, oh, okay, this sort of helped establish that become a trope. Yeah, I mean, if you're into horror, you kind of owe it to yourself to watch The Evil Dead. So do it if you haven't. And without further ado, we're going to drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, do you have that typed up plot synopsis?
I do indeed.
All right, let me hear it.
All right.
Do it in your best Dr. Olby or whatever's voice.
Yeah, I'll try. Ash, Scott, Linda, Shelley, and Cheryl go on a vacation to a remote cabin in the woods. When they arrive, they discover the cabin is in disrepair. There is a creepy cellar door that inexplicably pops open. When they investigate the cellar, they find a book bound in human flesh, a dagger, and an audio recorder. They play the audio, and the voice on the recording relays information about the Book of the Dead, and then reads an ancient Kandarian incantation, which awakens slumbering demons, allowing them to possess people. Cheryl goes outside to investigate strange noises. She gets held down and raped by vines. She escapes and says that she wants to leave the cabin. Ash and Cheryl attempt to drive off, but the bridge has been completely destroyed. Cheryl gets possessed and locked away in the cellar. Shelley then gets possessed, thrown into the fire, stabbed with a dagger, and is only stopped when Scott dismembers her with an axe. Linda gets stabbed in the ankle with a pencil. The stab wound spreads, and she is possessed. Scott tries to run away, but the wood beats his ass and won't let him leave. Ash wrestles with Linda, and she falls backwards onto the dagger. He buries her, but she rises from the grave and is only stopped when Ash chops her head off with a shovel. Cheryl escapes from the cellar and double teams Ash with Scott. Ash throws the... Yeah, I know. Ash throws the book into the fire, and Cheryl and Scott both decompose and explode. Ash walks out of the cabin to see the sun rising as the mysterious evil lurking in the woods descends upon Ash one final time. Ash screams and the credits roll. I feel like
Just like that.
My voice was pretty much done halfway through that, but
Yeah. You did a vigilant Dr. Noby for a few minutes. And
yeah,
then,
it's too much.
trailed off.
Too
Valiant effort.
Hey, appreciate it.
All right.
To clarify, nothing happens in this movie. There really is not a plot. People show up to a cabin and get fucking killed. That's really it.
Oh yeah. They do. It's just not. It's just a pretty bare bones
it's a
plot, which is
Yeah.
they play with some shit they shouldn't be playing with.
Yeah.
They have a.
It's really the same as any other Evil Dead plot. I mean, outside of Army of Darkness, that's its own thing. But like
The
all
first
the
two movies are the same.
1, 2. Well,
Yes.
that's something I want to talk about today because honestly, I did a little bit of research and I understand what Sam Raimi was not allowed to own the rights to his own film, so he just made it again. Is that correct?
I don't remember the specifics of that, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, so that doesn't sound right to me.
Wrong. I mean, so I watched the movie and then I put on the commentary with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and listened to that, and they were talking about how vigilant they were in securing a lawyer when they made The Evil Dead, and like had all the rights like spelled out to a T in a way that allowed them to make money off the film consistently since its original release.
Even the first one?
Yeah, the first one.
Oh, okay. Well, then whatever I read was 100%
Yeah,
wrong.
I'm looking up. I looked up, based on what you just said, Soju, and there apparently is some sort of line out there about this on Screen Rant and maybe a few other places. So in dispute, let's say. I guess I don't remember or didn't know that.
But I mean, if it's from Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's mouth,
but they might also.
Lawyer.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
true.
but
and
I don't know.
they might not own the film outright. I don't know, but they did say they were able to like clearly define lines in the original I guess contract that they drew up, because they had to like get money. They had to like ask people to donate money basically for them to make this movie, and they had like a family friend that was a lawyer that helped them draw the contract up.
Okay.
So maybe they didn't fully own the movie outright, but I know that they were able to make money off of it based on what they're saying. And this commentary was recorded like, I want to say 5 years ago. It's pretty recent.
Well, I mean, I guess that's something for us to dive into.
Well, then
later.
I'm curious then, Bob, because I think this is important, especially for this film and in discussing this franchise and how it got kicked off. Why the fuck did what, 6 years later, 7 years later, did they just make the same movie again with slightly different details, like spoilers, but he cuts off his hand and puts a chainsaw on it, or that crazy deer scene or something like that? Why? Do you have any explanation for like why this franchise is the way it is?
I don't know.
Do you, Randy, have any ideas?
You know, I read the fucking, like, I've read Bruce's autobiography and all sorts of shit, but it's been so long that I don't remember any of the details of this shit. So I can't say with any confidence what it was. It could be some sort of rights issue, but I mean, I feel like you don't do that unless you have a reason. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, I think that maybe it was intended to prolong the series or something and like lead into the Army of Darkness idea, you know what I mean? And sort of push it in a certain direction. But that's just a speculation on my part.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, just from a quick Google, which, you know, I spent a minute researching this just now. Apparently, Evil Dead 2 is outright a remake. And the reason being was the budget for Evil Dead 2 was roughly 10 times the budget of the original, and it just allowed Sam Raimi to do a lot more that he wanted to initially do but couldn't afford to do.
I'm seeing more outlets saying what Justin's saying though. So I mean, I don't know what the deal is. Like, if that's not true, then it's a well spread tale anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess either way, to me, honestly, it feels very strange and not necessary, because now this is going to be a hot takes from Shaboy Mr. Hotcakes, but I'll go ahead and say that from what I remember, now it's been 6 years ago, because the first one we ever covered was Evil Dead 2, episode 47. Damn. And I have not seen that movie since. But I enjoyed this one. I thought it had a better feel. I didn't like the wacky silliness of 2. And I get, like, yeah, he gets a chainsaw put on his arm and shit like that. And it kind of makes it more iconic or whatever. But I didn't like Army of Darkness either. And so to me, like, those films kind of ruin this, not ruin this one, but taint this one, in my opinion, because I'm not looking at it through like nostalgia goggles. I didn't grow up with the series, and to me, I like the flavor, the low budgetness of this first one. It has a more authentic feel, where the second one feels almost kind of try hard and super unnecessary, knowing the potential history of it, of like, yeah, we just got a bigger budget, we just want to make it again. That seems stupid to me.
I disagree with that, like, on pretty much all fronts. So, like, I don't particularly like Evil Dead. This one, like, I definitely agree with you that this one feels more authentic, and because it's trying for something different. And I can totally see a fledgling filmmaker who's trying to make his career in the early 80s trying to, you know, especially in the horror movie game where things are played fast and loose all the goddamn time. I feel like I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility for this to have happened more than once. Like, I feel like it's weird, certainly, and you could argue that it's unnecessary, or that you didn't like certain aspects of the retread or whatever later or whatever. That's all, you know, opinion based. But in terms of like Sam Raimi's decision to do that doesn't seem stupid to me so much, any more than any other like horror movie decision made at that time. Like, I don't know. To me, that doesn't really ring true. And I'm on record as saying the second one is my favorite because I really like the slapstick stuff. And I think that it really came into its own in terms of having a voice. But this movie is the most important of the three because it establishes so much. So I think that, you know, and because the second one does retread so heavily, it's tough to give it credit for a lot of that aspect of things. It really just builds on the formula that Sam solidified here. And this is actually a remake of a short film that he made, which he made on no budget as, I don't even know if he was a student at the time or maybe just like a kid, maybe a high school kid or something. I can't remember, but what was it? Like In the Woods or something like that it was called. He remade this fucking story 3 times, basically. Each time he got a bigger budget and he's like, well, now I can do it the way I wanted to do it. And then now I can do it with all these new ideas that I couldn't do because I didn't have the budget for it this time. Like, I could understand that, especially as a young director trying to make your way in early 80s horror.
See, to me, that almost as a young, now, obviously it's hard to say this in retrospect because he's an established, respected director who's going to be doing a Marvel movie soon. But in that era, to me, if I was like giving people money, it almost, when you describe it like that, you're like, yeah, this was my high school idea, and then I made it a first film, and then 6 years later, I just made it again. It makes it seem like you don't have any fucking ideas. You just want to make the same shit again and again and again. Like, what the fuck?
This is a manageable script to make as a horror filmmaker with limited budget. They made a bunch of fucking movies on their own as kids and as adults, but they were like no budget for thrills, things that you and I might have made, except with less skill. And they made like spy thrillers and all kinds of weird shit, but they don't have the budget to actually make those movies happen the way that they do A Cabin in the Woods with a limited cast.
I know. It's just like, man, it's just
to me, it makes more financial sense to try and perfect a movie.
Lazy.
I want to clarify that Sam Raimi has made 3 Marvel films already. Spider-Man.
Yes,
I forgot about the Spider-Mans. I mean,
not
I didn't
MCU,
forget,
but yes.
Yeah, so like, speaking of like Sam Raimi being lazy, I know one of the things that he mentioned on the commentary was like they specifically chose a horror movie to be their first picture because it was a way to break into the film industry. Like, so they're making movies in Michigan. Like, you know, they're not living in New York. They're not in LA. But they were very aware of the drive-in like movie circuit, which played, you know, grindhouse movies, like horror pictures, like very low budget horror movies. So like, okay, well, maybe we can hit up some friends of our families, raise some money, make a movie that we can showcase at the drive-in, and then start a career that way. So they raised, I think it was like between $300,000 and $400,000, basically just like asking people around town to donate money, hitting up family members and stuff. And they made this movie, and it got into the drive-ins. And obviously, you know, Sam Raimi is where he is now. Bruce Campbell is where he is now because of that. So it wasn't necessarily like a love for like horror movies outright or like making this specific story. It was just sort of like a way that they could begin their career. As far as like remaking it goes, I don't know, maybe Sam Raimi did just have like some reverence for this story and wanted to do it justice with a lot more money. And honestly, like, I think he was smart to do so, and it served him well, obviously, because Evil Dead 2 largely, not everybody would agree with this, is the best one of the franchise. It's Randy's favorite. It's my favorite as well of the franchise. So I think he was smart to do it. I don't know that he was lazy or short for ideas, because Sam Raimi is fucking Sam Raimi. He's made a lot of great movies and obviously has a lot of ideas.
Actually, that's not entirely correct based on the numbers.
What are you talking about?
So you said, I will say, you said this is the best one. This is how we have previously rated these films. So I want to go.
Oh, wow.
So, episode 47, we covered Evil Dead 2. It's the first one we covered. I rated it a 3, which is higher than I hold it in my mind. So maybe I liked it more than I remember liking it, but I gave it a 3. Randy gave it a 5, so it holds true for Randy.
Solid.
Bob gave it a 4.
Solid.
Okay. Now, the next one that we covered was the remake. Okay. Fede Alvarez covered it in 2013, redid it in 2013. This was episode number 111. I gave it a 4.5, so that is my favorite in the franchise.
Solid.
Randy gave it a 4, so below his 5-star for number 2. Bob gave it an equal score, 4. 4 and 4. 2 and remake. And then finally, I think it was last year, maybe episode 229. No, it had to be more than that, but
2018 we did it.
Damn.
I think.
229. We covered Army of Darkness, which is the third in the series, and I gave it a 2. I did not like that one. Randy gave it a 3.5, so far that was his least favorite, and Bob gave it a 3. So overall, so far in Straight Chilling...
Wait, what was mine? I missed it. It glitched out.
Randy, you gave it a 3.5, Army of Darkness.
Okay, that tracks. Okay.
So the overall aggregate scores, because there were other people, I think at least on Army of Darkness 2 for sure, but I mean... Not our goddamn Evil Dead 2. The aggregate score was for our Evil Dead 2 was 3.8, For Army of Darkness, 2.83. And for the remake, 4.25. So far in straight chillin' history, the remake is ranking the highest amongst all of them.
I mean, but he
is
was
what
not
I would
speaking
agree
about
with.
us as a group. He was talking about generally.
Just me, and I did say Randy, but I really just
Yeah.
talking about my opinion.
and that's been true for me for a
And
long time.
I feel like largely people do appreciate the second one more. Not everybody, but a lot of people do.
So, Bob,
Yeah, I
knowing
think that's.
that you
I think
ranked
it's a
them-
pretty large group that
Yeah.
because it strikes a perfect balance for people.
Yeah.
People who like the comedy aspect like that movie.
Yeah.
People who like the horror aspect like that movie. It's just a perfect blend, and that's the reason that I like it best.
Well,
So
and
I mean, but
I'm
go ahead.
curious too, because Bob, you said that one was your favorite of the series, but knowing that you ranked 2 and the remake the same, with technically 4.
Yeah.
They have very different flavors.
True.
And now, for the first time seeing this first film, I would say, to me, the remake is most true to this original film because it focuses
Yeah.
on the brutality and just the
That's
fucked
definitely
upness
true.
of what's going on in this cabin.
Fucked upness.
Yeah, fucked upness. Bob, so between 4 and 2, you still definitely prefer 2.
Yeah, I appreciate them both for very different reasons. The Evil Dead remake is one of the most like horrific horror movies I can think of. Like it really ranks high as far as like movies that affect me on like a visceral level. It's like not a pleasurable watch, but it's like truly horrific. Evil Dead 2 is like one of the more perfect horror comedies where like it's all about the gags and like the over the top like Ash facial expressions and the man put
the descent into comedic madness.
Sure, yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. Exactly. What Randy said. Also, he puts the fucking chainsaw in his hand in that movie. Like that's like iconic.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I think that's a key difference here that I kind of want to point out from my perspective of never having like been invested in this franchise at all, except for absolutely like loving the remake, having no attachment to this original series. But I tried to watch that show Ash vs. the Evil Dead, and I think the kind of crux here is I don't like the character, or I'm not like enthralled by the character of Ash. I don't find it particularly charming. I think his role here in this first film is surprising, and I thought it actually was kind of a cool twist because for the most part of this like first half of this movie, Scotty Too Hottie is the one who's fucking throwing down.
Right.
Ash
They
doesn't
do
do shit.
they do a lead
He
switch.
by.
He kicks that bitch down into the fucking into the
Drop
cellar.
kicks.
That shit cracked my ass.
Scotty, man, yeah, we should talk about this fucking movie instead of
we
like the
should.
legacy of this. So,
I
but yeah.
kinda, since we are wrapping up the series, I definitely want to tie in some of the stuff. But I think just for me, the character of Ash, the silliness of it all. I get the one-liners that we talked about a lot in like Army of Darkness and I guess in Evil Dead 2, but that's not my thing. And I think that's why it's easier for me to just kind of appreciate these movies that aren't focused on him.
I get that, and I mean I can appreciate that because that's one of the reasons I didn't love Army of Darkness as much is because it was like in record time a character in 3 installments went from somewhat grounded to totally flanderized and totally just leaning into every at that point for him in his case smarmy fucking self-assured lunatic behavior that they could for comedic effect. They knew what people liked about the second one. They know what Bruce Campbell liked to do in those movies, and they lean into it. And I can't fault them for it, but it's a little much for me. And Ash vs. Evil Dead is fun for me because it goes back to some horror stuff, but it doesn't, which is severely lacking in my opinion for Army of Darkness. But it also like brings with it that cadence of him being like pushed to the limit of what that character is in terms of like an elevator pitch version of that character. I like the middle ground of the second movie, and I like him in this first movie because it is more grounded. So I like these two versions of Ash best. So I get that.
I like watching Ash operate in this movie because like he is like he's forced into being a quote hero in these movies, and like you really get a true sense of that in this first movie because he's like standing in the background doing his best to not get involved and just like occasionally gets thrown into like some shelves and gets pinned down by a shelf that weighs like 20 pounds, like he could easily throw it
twice.
Yeah, he doesn't do shit until he absolutely has to. Like everybody else is dead or possessed, and like, well, it's all on you, buddy. Like you got to save your own skin now.
And the sadistic nature of the way the Deadites treat him in this movie, and then even more so in the next one, it really justifies for me him going not just from like zero to hero sort of thing, but also going from, person reacting in quaking terror to person just outright fight or flight fighting, like just going for it and doing everything he has to, and then sort of losing his goddamn mind in the process. Yeah. So like in this movie, there is sort of that hint of him going like mad. There's that scene where like the shutters start shutting real quick and everything, and things start going nuts, and his girlfriend's fucking with him, his Deadite girlfriend's fucking with him, and his Deadite sister's fucking with him, and all this shit. And he's like, he doesn't have that moment that's quite as elevated as in the second one with like the laughing lamp and the laughing deer head and all that shit, which I love, but it doesn't quite go that far, but it still hits that level of like, this guy must be losing his goddamn mind, and it tracks in how he behaves the rest of the movie. I think that descent is what makes this movie, and to a certain extent the second movie, really strong for his character.
There was a moment in this film like where it would be in the second film where he kind of starts to descend, but it's obviously like more pulled back. What was it? Like what happened?
There's a scene in this movie where he goes down in the basement where like everybody is sort of like possessed or dead.
Yeah.
And the pipes are leaking blood and it bursts in his face.
Yeah.
And that's when everything kind of goes sideways.
I don't think it's any one part though. Like you could point at that, but I could also point at like him.
That's not the one I was
going
thinking
through the glass of the mirror or some shit.
That was it. That was it. Where you got that. That's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you, Randy. Where the mirror. See, I liked
like
it
water.
more toned back because I guess another problem I have with this movie too. I feel like I'm giving this like series a lot of shit. One thing I liked about this movie.
Welcome to my mummy experience.
Yeah, is it was this one's more brutal.
Oop, that was not intentional, but kind of apt.
This one's more brutal, but it doesn't follow the logic that it itself sets up. So I remember this even in the remake, and see, I think the remake does a good job of fixing some of the problems that this one doesn't seem like it thought through enough, because essentially how this thing possesses people, or how they establish it and how it's mentioned in the book, is like through these flesh wounds kind of, and every time there's some kind of wound where we see it almost as an infection that takes over these people. And several times it does it to Ash, where, blood, when he cuts off the head and then blood spurts into his mouth with the pipe and stuff like that. And it never possesses him, where technically it should, because each one, like when the one woman is raped, that's how it first kind of takes over her. The pencil wound. Old Scotty Too Hottie gets attacked in the woods, and
Shelly gets attacked off screen.
Yeah, so I mean, each one attaches itself, and in the remake, they that holds true. I don't want to spoil anything with the remake, but they do a good job of twisting it because of your expectations and stuff like that. But they at least hold true to the rules. And that's one thing I was like,
I think that you're like, to me, I don't see those as a rule. Like what you're describing isn't a rule for this movie to me. To me, it's
why
the Deadites they're infecting whoever the fuck they want to in order to fuck with whoever they want to fuck with at that moment. So like, I think they could, once they're released from their prison or whatever.
Why wouldn't they take him over?
Because they want to fuck with him. They want to play with their food. They want to torture him into madness. That's what their goal is. They don't just want to kill them. They want to make them, like one of them at least, to go totally fucking insane by pulling every horrible string they can pull to fuck with him. I think they could take over him anytime they wanted to, but he manages, maybe there's some indomitable will that keeps it away or something, but I never saw it as that. I saw it as the hubris of this ancient evil just wanting to fuck with you so hard that it fucks itself in the end a little bit.
That is a question that the sequel solves. I mean, he just fucking gets possessed.
Yeah, he does get possessed, and he actually does fight it off at one point.
Yeah.
He looks awesome as a Deadite, by the way. That's one of his best looks.
He does. I don't put a lot of thought into like the motives of like the evil dead. They just possess at will.
They're just
and
evil.
It just kind of is what it is. Yeah. One thing I did have one question about this movie though. Like it's sort of a loose question, but I think it was Cheryl. It's Cheryl or Shelley. I forget which one. But when they first get to the house, one of them is like she's got a pad of paper and she's like sketching or whatever. And her Cheryl, in her hand gets possessed and she ends up drawing the Necronomicon against her will, and it's like very frightening and off-putting. And she just like doesn't really mention that to her friends.
Yeah,
I'd be like, something is wrong. Like, we should leave.
She's also the odd one out. Like the other two are couples. She kind of isolates herself and makes it seem like I don't know.
She's Ash's sister, and that's why she's there. So it's like she doesn't have a significant other with her. She's kind of latched to Linda.
I mean, I could see like if some weird shit happened to you by yourself, why you wouldn't tell your like young friends like, "Hey, I'm freaking the fuck out."
I mean, I can see both sides of that coin, and to me, it's like the character that like the way these characters act is very like. I don't think it's that deep of a thing. You know what I mean? I think you, Justin, to your credit or to Rob's credit, I think you're actually giving this movie more credit than it deserves in terms of how it's handling its tertiary characters. Like Cheryl is a big character for like the setup, but like, I don't think they're really thinking about her in terms of like, oh, but she's too afraid to say anything because she's afraid of being ostracized. They don't really set that up in any real direct way besides just having her be a single person who just spends a little more time on her own because of that. And so I don't know that it really lays the groundwork for that. If you did have a problem with internal logic with this movie, I feel like that would be the moment.
Yeah. I don't know. I think the problem too is when they're reading the book, it like specifically highlights about possession and the wounds and stuff. Like it's something that they read aloud and is a focus. So I think it's just one of those things, and we see it. It's part of the visual of the possession takes place from that girl's pencil wound in her ankle. We specifically see it spread, and it happens to that other girl too. Where does it spread? Where you see the black like spread through her body, and so it's part of this continuity where it's like, okay, it's mentioned in the book. It has a visual aspect attached to it, and they specifically show you the wounds that like occur to those people in order for it to start going. And so I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to put so much importance through these multiple aspects of like dialogue and part of the actual story and part of the actual lore, and then also part of the special effects that you have to go back and do post-production, so it was obviously thought about. So I'm just like, I mean, I don't know, it kind of starts to rub me raw.
I think that maybe I don't remember him saying anything about wounds in the recording. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that. And I do think that like you have a fair point.
I don't know what the line was.
He said something about dismemberment being the only way to stop his then possessed wife from attacking. Dr. Nobi does say that. So maybe it got mistranslated there or something. But like to your point though about the infection spreading, I again kind of chalk that up to, and this is absolutely debatable, but I chalk that up to the things fucking with him, because it doesn't take over her leg while she's under the covers. It takes over the minute that he checks her leg. You know? Like,
and I could give that too because of the way that these personalities of these demons are portrayed, because they are very devious,
smarmy,
mischievous.
Yeah, and they can turn on and off possession, sort of.
I could
like they can turn off their possession, at least their outward appearance of possession, and even wounds and shit on a dime. We see that with Linda, and they use it for like the heartstring moment where she's like, "Oh, please don't let them take me again, blah, 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 blah." And then they do that with Cheryl as well. And it's like these things are able to do whatever the fuck they want, and they're using that power to do whatever the fuck they want to maximize terror. And that works really well for a horror movie, and it also works really well if your goal as an evil entity is to drive people insane and make them chop up their family and friends.
Something I wanted to sort of bring up and touch on regarding this movie is like probably the most infamous scene of this movie is like the whole tree vine like rape sequence. Man, like it's been a few years since I've seen this movie, and like when that happened, like I knew it was coming, but like fucking that shit is hard to watch, even though it's just like vines. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard to square with that sequence. Like, it's very effective and like it's scary and terrifying, which is the purpose of the scene, but like, is that going like a bridge too far? Like, watching that in 2021, like, is it too much? I don't know how you guys
I've always
feel
kind of
about
thought it
that
was
scene.
a bit much, but for a movie that's going for much, it's tough to fault them entirely, especially in a I don't know, especially in a time where like Last House on the Left and shit is going on. Like, this is not untreaded territory at the time. It's just adds a supernatural spin to it, and it's a very visceral scene because this movie aims for the visceral. So I have a hard time totally squaring it, but also a hard time condemning it entirely.
And that's one of the problems I have too, because when I was researching this film, another headline that kept popping up was Sam Raimi, really regrets the tree rape scene. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the problem with that. He remade the movie 6 years later, and that scene is still there. It still exists. And with the remake, now the remake was not Sam Raimi, but now this scene, which I agree is very troubling. Again, someone who's not attached to the franchise, the first time I saw that scene, I was like, oh my God. Like, I just couldn't even. I thought, of course, it was very unnecessary. Now, it was attached to a much more brutal Evil Dead remake. But going back and seeing these headlines of like, Sam Raimi really regrets this tree rape scene, and knowing 6 years later, oh, I got a bigger budget and I'm gonna remake this film and I'm gonna change very key scenes. Like, I'm gonna my main character puts a chainsaw in his hand. Like, that's a huge difference between the original film.
Well, that happens after the events of the first one,
but
like within they recap the first one in the first like 15 minutes, and after that, his hand situation happens and the chainsaw situation happens.
Is that what it is? It's supposed to be a whole different group of people?
Well, yeah. Well, they trim everybody except for Linda and Ash from the story of Evil Dead 1, and they cover it all in sort of a forward at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And then they have a whole new batch of characters who are the daughter of the owner of Dr. Nobi coming back to find his research with her husband or whoever else.
Okay. I guess it's been so long since I've seen that film. I agree. I agree that the rape scene is like problematic. It's very disturbing. And really, again, the only reason I could see why it was included that way is when they're talking about what I thought was part of the lore of like the wounds being kind of like the infection point for these demons. And so I was like, well, I mean, at least like that's something. It's still unnecessary because they just beat the shit out of Scotty Too Hottie. But but I mean, they rape is her name Linda or Cheryl? Which one is it? Cheryl. Yeah.
Cheryl.
So I don't know.
And
I agree. It's very troubling, and I don't know. It's
to me,
fucked up.
I feel like there's a justification. There is a justification for doing it, like not a great one, and it's not a choice I would make. But if your goal is to make it as visceral and depict this evil as the kind of evil that will fucking just violate you in every conceivable way, physical, emotional, safety wise, in every conceivable way, on its way to torturing you to insanity. Yeah, okay. Like, if you really don't want to pull the punch, then there is a punch you cannot pull in the form of sexual fucking shit like that. The problem with the first one is that I don't think that Sam or people of that time, like, I don't think that it was handled with the kind of care that we would want to give it today, in that, she doesn't even like say anything happened, which, and to her credit, it's like, how do you explain that? But she's like, the trees are alive. I want to get out of here. And like, not only does she not go into that, even though everybody is acting insanely like calm about what happened to her, and it's like, yeah, you're all ripped up and you clearly got torn the fuck up, but you don't want to go to a hotel, do you? Like, what are you fucking talking about?
Here's
I don't know,
like, not specific to this film, but here's how I always treat rape in films, especially horror films, because it's used so often, unfortunately, or it feels like it's used like there's a whole subgenre of rape revenge and stuff like that, which isn't this film. But how I always try to justify it for people who are like, it's part of the movie, or like it needs to be there, it's disturbing, or like that's what they're going for. I always think like, take the character who you root for, or who you attach yourself to, like let's say in this franchise it's Ash, okay, and switch him out with the woman who's being raped. Like, how much more would people say that this movie is even more disturbing if the character who's being raped by trees is Ash instead of the woman Cheryl or whatever? Like, people would be, oh my god, that's so troubling. I mean, the hero you're supposed to attach yourself to versus like this vulnerable woman. I think like that's how I always treat a rape, and that's why I'm always like, nope, I'm like never down for this. And it's like, I don't know, feels like people kind of get numb to it in some ways, or justify it in some ways.
No,
like,
it's misogyny. It's like, honestly, it is. Like, if I'm going to be real about it, that's like, there's a reason that it's, you rarely if ever see a male rape scene in movies, be they point of view character or not. You almost never see it, or it's done for comedic effect, and like, yeah, that's done too. So I mean, those things.
Reanimator, kind of. Reanimator's done with a bit of a comedic tone.
Male.
With comedic. I was looking for male. Okay.
What do you say, comedic? Yeah.
No, where it's done somewhat for comedic effect, and like, for better or for like, I think that whole thing is not, it's not untotally, like I said, it's not totally unjustifiable. I think that you're right, that it would have been a bigger gut punch and would have been more effective for the stated goal of disturbing the audience if it had been Ash or it had been somebody else, if you're going to go that route. However, this movie is also at that time treating Ash like a secondary character, and they're slowly sneaking him into the lead. I don't know. I think there's an argument to be had about it, and I think that but I think the decision to go with a female in that position and then have her not even like not then basically never bring it up again and have it serve only like as a subtle purpose for her, like that you have to ascribe in yourself. I think that's an act of like unwitting misogyny on their part, because it's not just that she's like violated, she's violated in a way where she's like moaning and shit that, you know, if you took some of that moaning out of context without the soundtrack, it could be mistaken for pornographic. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I think that it could go both ways, and I think there's some fair criticisms to be made about it and some fair justifications for it as well.
It's an effective scene for sure, but if you're gonna have a rape scene in a movie, it's got to like seriously serve the plot to be justified. In a way that this movie does. It just doesn't use the scene in that way. Like, I don't know, Scott runs out in the woods and just gets like his ass whooped off screen and we don't see it, and then he's back in the cabin and gets possessed. Like, that could have easily happened with Cheryl too. Like, there's no reason to have this like long sequence where the vines not only violate her but disrobe her and caress her bosom. It's just like very graphic. I mean, if you could even shoot this scene in a way that just suggests what happens and doesn't really show it. I mean, they full bore show it.
Oh yeah, and they spread her fucking legs in this.
It's real egregious. Yeah, and it's pretty uncomfortable to view, and it's just, it doesn't serve the plot. It's totally unnecessary. I don't think that it serves. I don't think the purpose it serves is anywhere near the level that would pass for me to want to include it in a movie I was making. But I give a little bit of consideration to the fact that this was a B horror movie playing at drive-in theaters in the early 80s. That was not uncommon, and it was, if they're going for that audience, they're playing to their audience to some respect, and for better, or certainly in this case for worse. And I would rather it not be there in the form that it's taken, and if it was in there, I would rather it be, like Justin said, maybe to Ash, or maybe to Scotty, or maybe just like brought up more as like a negative and more like being more specified as something horrific that has happened instead of just glossed over. Like, any of those things would have helped it, I think. But
we got the movie we got. And that's by far the most troubling thing about this movie to me in terms of liking it.
It is intended to disgust, and it succeeds in that.
Yeah.
Now,
It's just
real
worth the squeeze.
quick, because I feel like I've taken this as kind of like a jumping point to kind of share my overall maybe confusion about why this series is so popular. However, I like this movie. When it first started, I was like, I don't like this movie. I really did. When it first started, I was like, man, why? I really, like, within the first 20 to 30 minutes, I was like, why is this series so revered in horror? Why? And like, why does it get so much attention and so much praise? Because again, I was detached from the whole Ash character. I thought Army of Darkness was not very good. However, this movie was made for almost nothing. And once it kicks in, once the possession kicks in, that shit, they do the horror right in this film. So not like trees raping people. That's just egregious. I agree. The horror elements of possession and the battle against possession and your friends dying and being in an isolated area. Once that shit kicks in and Cheryl gets possessed and Sky Tuati has to kick her fucking down the cellar. Oh my God, dude. It should have killed me. But it was good. It was good. And I appreciated his descent into madness here more with the surreal mirror scene and him having to go into the basement. It just felt much more tense and gritty. And the makeup was fucking fantastic. And really once it started going, the only hiccup for me in this realm of horror and possession was Ash's girlfriend. I can't remember her name. What's Ash? Linda. Her noise level is at a very sharp shrill. And she rides that note the whole time she's trying to kick Ash's ass. Now, I will say, when there's a scene where she first starts getting possessed and he like goes outside the cabin and he comes inside the cabin and she's just sitting there like cross-legged and like giggling. She's got the fucked up face. I was like, man, this is some good shit. I don't know. I was all about once the possession kicked in, and it impressed me and literally pulled me from a place where I'm already not caring about this franchise, don't particularly like 2, didn't like 3, and started this movie saying off this series is fucking overrated as shit and pulled me back out to where I was like, I understand why this is a fucking classic. That's how much. I thought that the makeup and the cellar, like with the chain and like everything, I was like, I understand now where the remake was coming from. They were honoring this particular film, not this franchise. It was this film right here. And I dug on it. I really liked it.
I believe that was stated intention too, about it being like a follow-up to or a remake of Evil Dead, the movie. And not the franchise. So hence they just scrapped the Ash character entirely, but put some other characters into the similar situation. So yeah, I think that's great. I'm really happy to hear that, because I was thinking you were going to come into this thinking it was dog shit as well. So I'm glad to hear that. And like, to me, it's like this movie gets a lot of credit from me as well for its DIY nature, and especially having read like the making of this movie in Bruce Campbell's autobiography and shit, like
kill or whatever.
Chins Could Kill. Yeah. That was like, I read that in high school and it fucking blew my mind. It was like, this is like what happens if, you and your friends who make dumbass videos on a Sunday afternoon every so often start taking it really goddamn seriously and start really putting like trying to get money into it and trying to make it legit good. And then happen to succeeding. You know what I mean? Like it happened just by sheer virtue of trying it over and over again, start getting it right. And the brutal nature of this, they go hard on it. The horror effects or whatever that they use in here for the budget, for the time, and just in general, they still look really fucking cool, if not totally convincing.
They do.
They're like I will always look at that. I will always look at that ankle stab as like like the pivotal moment where you're like, okay, this movie just became something unforgettable just by virtue of that, because it is a visceral and painful looking thing that is totally fucking convincing by my standard. Like, just watching that thing work in her Achilles tendon is so hard to watch, and it's so effective. And they did that shit on nothing. They had no fucking budget. They had like 4 people playing that, like each Deadite.
$75,000 or something
Yeah.
like that. That's bonkers.
And I think they
It
shot
is.
for like 6 weeks or something like that in a cabin in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. And I think like it was
Sorry,
during
go
the
ahead.
winter time, and it was just like really fucking miserable conditions. Like,
Part of the trivia said that like the wires and shit froze.
yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
nuts. I was going to talk about that in trivia, but which is nuts because nobody in this movie is particularly wearing a heavy coat or anything. Goddamn Ash is in a button-up shirt.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like a flannel or anything. It's just a fucking button-up shirt.
Well,
and the
shit,
girls are
Cheryl's
wearing
running around and-
dresses and shit.
Yeah, Cheryl's running around and falling in the brush for like a full 5 minutes, as we know.
Yeah.
In nothing but underwear and like no robe even at that point.
And
so
that
like
weather was cold
that
enough
shit's-
to freeze the camera equipment.
That is
God
nuts.
damn.
It's fucking nuts.
I wanted to talk about some of like the cinematography in this movie real quick.
Yes, I
which
was
is-
going to bring that up too.
It's what really like sells this movie for me personally. Like, there's a lot of gags and like ingenuity involved with the gags. It's really impressive. But the thing that sells this is just the way the movie looks, the way the camera moves. It's very fluid when it needs to be. They created sort of like a makeshift steady cam in order to film this movie, which is basically just plywood.
Yeah.
The sequence where Ash enters the cellar towards the last like third of the movie, where he's all alone and like the pipes are leaking blood and the light bulbs fill up with blood and explode, and like the projector kicks on and it's like bleeding, like that whole sequence where he just goes fucking mad. Basically, the camera work completely changes in that moment, and like it sort of signifies to you like Ash is completely unhinged, and they start getting like really extreme like camera angles, and like as he's walking back up the stairs, the camera's underneath him filming him as he's walking, and then he goes down the hallway and the camera's up above him like shooting down on him, and then flips over his head to like it's to where it's facing him like face to face again. It's just like the camera's all around this dude, and it's like magical, that whole sequence where he's alone and like really feeling unhinged. I love that shit, man. Like Sam Raimi.
Me too.
This is his feature film debut, and like he's his mastery of the camera is just it's difficult to fathom, man. He's 20 years old doing this shit.
It's really goddamn good, and it's done on this budget by a bunch of dudes who are hacking it together.
Yeah.
That's that's the most insane thing of all. Not only did they do a bunch of shots, like you said, that are pretty uncommonly good, but they're super uncommonly good for this genre and this time period for this audience. So like the mere fact that he elevated like everything, all the cinematography of this movie to that level is truly it's truly impressive on every level to me.
Well, and it's respectable too, because he didn't have to. Like, to your point, when you said that, it made me say like, they knew what was out there at the time, and this budget is tiny, and they could easily make the excuses of like, nobody else is doing it this way. We don't have to put in the effort. We can get by without it. So to me, that does make it more respectable, because you were working with a tight budget. You were using makeshift equipment, and you didn't have to. Your peers and the thing you were trying to emulate or even like compete with in these kind of like lower grade horror movies that were for the drive-through, they weren't doing it. And they could drive-in. Sorry, drive-through. I do that every time. They weren't doing it, so you didn't have to, you know. So that's I agree. That's very respectable, and something that you're right. It does make this film pop and like stand out in its significance.
Yeah, they made it for love of the game, so to speak. You know. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is like clearly a love project on every level, and like, yeah, it just shows. I want to also talk about the acting real quick, because that's where some of my critical voice comes out. Bruce is doing a good job, I think. Certainly later in the film, But everybody at the beginning is very kind of like rote B movie acting, I would say. And certainly, and I think the weakest link is Scotty, who gets the hero role to begin with, and then eventually, you know, as we know, becomes a deadite and becomes secondary. But when he's kind of running the show and he's getting a lot of screen time and he's doing all kinds of shit, even like some of the writing for him isn't great, but the delivery is very wooden on a lot of that shit. So like, I'm thinking about like, I always laugh about him saying "party down." I think that shit was so funny as a kid and now when like Ash is trying to speak Latin, he's like, and that means, and he goes, "Party down." So fucking goofy.
Wow.
I love that, but it's bad. And like some of the shit that he does, like, I gotta get out of here, Ash. I gotta, like, some of that shit he's doing is it's just not coming off real well. And I don't know. He doesn't even, like, Scotty is my least favorite character in this particular movie, and it's partially because of the acting when he's not a deadite, but it's also partially because his deadite self gets almost nothing to do. He's only in it a handful of minutes, so I don't know. That's kind of like my crux is he's like at the beginning they have that scene where he's honks the horn and then some fishermen are waving at him whenever he's like, "Oh, fuck you. I don't care about you guys," or something. And it's so The Room to me. It just doesn't come off well.
That's pretty bad. Yeah.
I agree with you, and honestly, it was one of the main contributing factors to why the first 30-ish minutes I was like, nope, this franchise is overrated. I don't get it. It's because the acting was so flat, and at that point we hadn't really seen anything going on. You know, it's just the cabin and them driving and stuff like that, and the bridge breaking and the setup for everything. I'll even give a couple more critiques contributing a little bit to the acting, but it feels a little bit from a directing standpoint too. When things first start to kick off, even that scene I mentioned where Ash's girlfriend, he comes in and she's like sitting cross-legged, but it happens a couple times. People do not act as freaked out as they fucking should. Like
Agreed.
when that first girl gets possessed and she's floating in the air and then she collapses down on the ground, they're like, what did she do? I was like, that bitch was floating in the air. Like, no, you should all be shitting your shorts right now. These reactions are not appropriate to what's happening.
You know, and part of that I think is actually the power of, and I wanted to praise the woman who played Cheryl, because she sells the fuck out of her part. Like, she's not in it a ton either. She's in it just obviously for the first, like, say, act, or maybe act and a half. And she is so, I mean, I guess she is all the way through, but it's different. At some point it becomes Ted Raimi in a mask. Yeah. But she, like, I don't know, her sales, she really sells her terror really well. So it actually makes everybody else's, like, kind of half-assed concern seem that much more fucking frustrating.
Yeah, and because even Ash, like, his girlfriend is possessed and is laughing demonically and sitting cross-legged, and he just walks in the house and, like, walks past her, like, gives her no attention, like, oh, Jesus Christ, my girlfriend has been, like, nothing.
Yeah.
He walks in, walks right fucking past her. I'm like, these
he slaps the shit out of her.
Not appropriate at all.
And like when Cheryl's like, "I want to leave right now," and he's like, "Oh, you don't want to go to a hotel," and then Scotty's like, "I'm not going anywhere," and all this shit. And like, it's all like so frustrating because she's like, "Well, I'm leaving, Ash, you have to take me," and he's like, "Fine, I guess we'll find you somewhere to stay in town." And I'm so pissed. I'm like, if this happened to any of us, I have to think that you would stay with her. This is like
we would all be
best.
like, let's get the fuck out,
dude.
now.
Even if you don't buy that it's anything more than an unstable sister, that's a fucking unstable person that you don't want to stay in the woods with when she's having an episode. You want to take her somewhere where she can at least get her fucking wounds cared for. The fuck are you talking about? We don't want to leave. But like, yeah, but that leads to some great shit. Obviously, I love the scene where they find the bridge.
We got to land the plane.
Oh shit! Well,
yeah, so fast, didn't it, boys?
Yeah, it went by so fast. If you got any other quick hitters, just mention them in your rating if you don't mind, gentlemen's. Let's do it. Out of 5, how are we feeling about the Evil Dead? Juice, kick us off.
All right, so Evil Dead, the original. I like the more gritty, horror-driven ideas and tone and effects. I like this one better than 2. To me, I didn't see a whole lot of intentional comedy in this. Like maybe a bit, but not really. To me, it was really horror-driven. The things that were happening, I think the frustration I felt with the actors, because I was like, these are horrific things that they're showing us. This makeup is fantastic. These wounds are like fucking gross, and there should be a much stronger reaction to what's happening because I was feeling it. And this is 40 years ago with the lowest budget effects you can imagine. And I was feeling that shit. So I think that's where some of my frustration comes from. The acting isn't spectacular. However, I did like the twist. Even though, I know the character now 40 years later, I was trying to put myself in there and thinking like, man, when you watch this in 1981 for the first time in the fucking theaters, one, these effects would have been fantastic. Like this would have been absolutely horrifying because they're still affecting me today. I've seen a shit ton of horror movies. And I knew the whole like Ash character was going to take over, and I was still pleased with the kind of the twist because I didn't know Sky Too Hottie was going to be the main guy for a while. So it was fun for me to see that play out because that particular part was a surprise. So I like that little shift in character and expectation. The acting is not great. This really kind of goes back and forth for me between some positives and negatives. The acting is not great. Some of the lore doesn't quite add up. Some of the low budget shows in a negative way. And also the rape scene is just, it's unnecessary. It's egregious. It's rough. But the positives, makeup is fantastic. I think the possession acting is good. The horror aspects in this are good. That, like Bob said, the basement scene, the blood, even the ending scene that we didn't talk about, where it kind of moves through the cabin first person through like the demon or the evil or whatever, and kind of grabs Ash. To me, I like that ending better than him getting sucked into the 1300s. Like I like this package. And it's got its faults, but then it kicks in like this was made for nothing. And then I respect even more about it. I dug on this. It was a cool cabin in the woods. We didn't talk about whether this kind of established the cabin in the woods. I don't personally know, but it was good.
The answer's primarily yes.
Okay. In my mind, I rated Evil Dead 2 lower. I thought I rated it probably somewhere around a 2.5. However, I think this movie is better than Evil Dead 2, so I'm going to rank it better, even though it was like 300 episodes ago, 47 that we covered this. So because of that, I was leaning more towards a 3, but I do want it to be higher in ranking just in our spreadsheet for the series. So I'm going to put it at a 3.5. So that leaves me like overall so we're wrapping up the series. That leaves me with Evil Dead 1, 3.5, Evil Dead 2, 3, Army of Darkness 2, Evil Dead Remake 4.5. To me, still my favorite one is the fucking brutal remake, which I think is just a fantastic horror just overall. So that's where I stand on this series. Bob, out of 5, how do you rank Evil Dead OG?
Let me tell you, this movie is very effective. It's not one that I grew up watching, so I don't have the nostalgia goggles going on here. I mentioned the cinematography. It's fantastic. The ingenuity that goes on regarding like the gags is also extremely impressive. It's all very hands-on DIY. Sam Raimi and the crew are figuring how to do this stuff like on the day in real time, just making it work. And, hats off, just, you got to be like an excellent problem solver to do that. We didn't really talk about the like claymated sequence towards the end where like the Deadites are decaying and shit. That's just like, I don't know that it holds up very well, but I just really appreciate the craft of being able to do that in the middle of the woods with a few of your friends, Also, the like Deadite voices are, I don't know exactly how they achieve it, but they're layered in a way that they all sound very similar and have maintained that effect throughout all the movies and the TV show. They just have this like very particular sound. Like as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, that's what a Deadite sounds like. I think that's really, really great sound design. It's very effective. This movie's horrifying. 40 years later, shoestring budget, it's still horrifying. For better or for worse, that tree sequence is in there. It's effective. I think it does cross the line in a way that if they removed it, it really wouldn't affect the success of the movie in any way. And I think, like, considering that just really proves that, like, why is it even in there? I don't know. They're trying to shock, and it definitely shocks. So they achieve what they were trying to achieve with that sequence, at least. I don't know. Just seeing Sam Raimi's like absolute mastery of the camera, it's just fucking awesome in this movie. Like he's a kid, he's a baby, he's 20 years old. he makes this fucking movie that just looks beautiful. I love the cinematography. Still, like I mentioned at the top of the show, I prefer Evil Dead 2. I think it's more successful. I'm going to give this a 3.5, same as Juice. Did you want to run down my...
Yeah, might as well. So to wrap it up, again, I don't know. This kind of feels like a big deal for me. I don't know if we have wrapped up a horror series in 7 years of horror casting.
I don't think we
have.
Well,
so this is kind of a big deal for me.
We did like the 2 Conjuring movies. Like that doesn't really feel the same.
But we didn't do all the Annabelle Takes a Shit and
True.
stuff. So
I would watch Annabelle Take a Shit. I'm just curious how the mechanics of that work.
So just wrapping it up. So episode 319 today, Bob ranks Evil Dead 1 3.5. Episode 47, Evil Dead 2. Rob said 4 out of 5. 229 was Army of Darkness. Bob gave it a 3. And the remake, which was episode 111, Bob gave it a 4. So the highest score he ever gave for this series was a 4. Mine was 4.5. I like this series more than you, Bob.
Apparently so, man.
Randy,
Ooh.
out of 5, what you gonna give Evil Dead OG?
Okay, so I've given this a lot of thought because I was really worried about being too uncritical of this movie because of I did grow up with this. Like I said, it sort of pushed me towards the realm of horror in general at a pivotal point in upbringing. So I have a lot of softness towards this movie and the franchise in general, really. This is not my favorite of the batch. Like Rob, the second one is my favorite because I do like an infusion of comedy in there. I think that some of the going mad scenes in particular are like maybe my favorite scenes in the whole franchise, period. Laughing with the lamp, for God's sake, that is funny as shit to me still to this day. I just love the look of it. Anyway, but for this movie, I think that I actually kind of nailed all my other scores, and because the score I'm giving this movie is perfectly in line with how I see the sequence of quality here. So I would have considered giving this movie a 5, but the inclusion of the rape scene that, like Rob said, the real problem there, more than anything else, I can understand the how it ended up there, the thinking that brought it there, but it does not hold up, and it does not add anything that can't be added in less troubling ways. Those things can be done other ways, and in ways that are, handled with more care, I would say. So that's a minus 0.25 for me, just right there off the bat. And then the wooden acting is kind of the other big crux, especially at the beginning, because it is, like Justin said, like I feel like the first time you watch this movie, it's real easy to be thrown by it because it seems very much like any other B movie that some people will like or dislike depending on their taste, but it doesn't seem very unique on the outset. And for the first act, for the most part, it feels that way. And I think that's due in large part to the acting and the focus on Scotty. Sorry, Scott. But Scotty Too Snotty, as I call him. But by the end where he's like, I don't give a shit what happens to Linda. I thought that shit was like, yeah, that's the real Scotty Too Snotty. That's him. Anyway, look, so, but going down the list of positives here, I think that, like, to Rob's point, like the stop motion, I think holds up really goddamn well. It's tough to find stop motion at all that can actually feel disgusting. I can't think of another example. This actually feels gross and like it doesn't read as reality because I don't think stop motion really ever does, but it sells itself on its visceral grossness as opposed to other stop motion moments like in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where it's kind of just like, oh shit, like a 2-second thing that pops up and scares you and it's just startling. In this case, they take their time with that shit and I think it plays really well still to this day. This movie is trope defining. To Justin's question, yeah, like the cabin in the woods setting with and like the reading of the Necronomicon, all that shit, those are things that existed in some form or another, but this is the movie that nailed them into the pop culture mind frame and this franchise in general, but certainly this movie is the catalyst for all of that. The movie Cabin in the Woods would not exist without this movie, that's for damn sure, at least not in the form that it is. It's less comic booky than the other sequels and leans hard into the visceral gore, and the DIY nature of the filmmaking really sells that very goddamn well. It still has, like Rob said, it's still scary to this day. It birthed, a lot of things that I really fucking enjoy, and it gets like a +1 point in general for just being a movie that I personally love. I'm allowing myself my bias to give it 1 full point.
Nah, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that.
I'm allowed to do that.
Nah.
So I got a mind. So I would have given it given on its pure merits, I probably would have given it a 3.5. And I thought to myself, yeah, but this is a movie that I love that's stuck with me for my own personal enjoyment. I'm adding a 1, which puts it perfectly at the 4.5 mark, just below Evil Dead 2, just above Evil Dead, the remake with Fede Alvarez. And I guess like 1.5, however much above Army of Darkness, which is not really my favorite. And I think we know why.
I don't like sand.
Oh my God. I love that that's a new staple that we'll definitely get sued for sure.
Oh yeah. Quicker than that. I don't know. The Rigatoni people are coming for.
Mm-hmm. Randy's 4.5 is going to put our aggregate at a 3.8 for The Evil Dead.
All right, so one more time. I don't know. This is just like, again, 3.8. So, surprisingly, our aggregate, because we've covered this with other people, or this franchise with other people, but for the Straight Chilling podcast, here's how it all ranks out. The Evil Dead series. Evil Dead 1, average 3.8. Surprisingly, Evil Dead 2, average out at a 3.8. They are equal. Army of Darkness, average 2.83, so a whole point down. And the remake averaged out at 4.25, so in Straight Chilling history, the remake is the best Evil Dead film.
It
2013.
It is the best rated amongst all of the people on the show, which, by the way, and Evil Dead 2, I think that was back when we were still had like 8 people on the show.
Yeah.
So, Evil Dead 2. Yeah, it was Brad's pick, so at least it was me, you, Brad, Rob.
And I think there were at least a few
twins, maybe Drew, maybe.
Let me see how I'll look it up while we're doing other things.
I feel like the twins were not as kind as we were to this movie, or certainly not as kind as I was, or to that movie. I think that there were some low scores in there that may or may not have been offset by me.
I'm honestly surprised I ranked it at I just, in my mind, I have it around a 2.52, but I ranked it what I ranked it. So
I remember you being pretty sour on it. I remember Brad being sad.
Yeah,
I remember that
too. Yeah.
How could you do this to me?
No.
Also, well, I don't know if we should put personal shit on. I guess I won't say.
What is this even for?
Hang on. On Evil Dead 2, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overall scores. It looks like it was Brad. Oh shit, it's hard to read on my phone. But there were 6 of us rating this film. So probably Bob, Randy, Juice, Brad.
It's not a scientific method we're using, but that is the aggregate ranking.
Yeah.
So we will live and die by that until the next Evil Dead movie is produced.
Evil Dead Rises. We'll be talking about it whenever it is made and
In
released.
7 years.
We'll revisit the franchise in due time.
Well, 100 episodes, I think.
Let us continue on our journey here at Straight Chilling. Without further ado, let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about The Evil Dead.
Certified.
All right, folks, for the uninitiated, this is our Rotten Tomatoes segment in which I'm going to ask these two gentlemen to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate scores are on RottenTomatoes.com. And that's both the critics' review and the audience score. So we'll start with the critics, as we usually do. There are 61 reviews counted in this. So I think that crosses the threshold for what? Yeah, they do have a critics consensus. Okay, good. So I'm going to start with Soju. Soju, we'll start with you. What do you think the critics aggregate will be for this film?
This is tough because it is an older film and now it has a reputation. It's got a director attached to it. It's mind blowing that he was 20 at the time. But that, people respect a lot now, who's done other more popular things. So this is tough. I think it'll be positive. And I'm kind of just trusting that most of these reviews probably weren't when this film came out. So I think hindsight's going to help this film. I'm going to give it the Project 86.
Okay, we'll 86 it. Bob, how about you? Where are you lying on the scale here?
I'm going to go a little lower with an 80, please.
80, okay. All right, well, Soju, put on your dancing shoes, my friend. You just got it.
Wow.
This is actually, and prepare your buttholes for this, 95% positive.
Wow.
I did not
Impressive.
expect it to be that high.
Most impressive.
I didn't either. Certified. And I think you're right. Like that's true of most movies, that it tends to be modern lenses that are being aggregated and not, whoever wrote for the Dallas Sun-Times in the 80s.
Damn.
So, I think that was a fair wager. It's still, even that, considering that though, I think that's pretty goddamn high. Here's the critics' consensus. This classic low-budget horror film combines just the right amount of gore and black humor, giving The Evil Dead an equal amount of thrills and laughs. Now, Justin didn't feel that way.
I didn't feel the humor.
I feel like it did have some comedy, but it's like compared to Evil Dead 2, it's tough not to not see it as the serious one.
Yeah, not a lot of comedy.
I don't care
really.
where the humor comes in here, but the most important thing is, can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Way to
All
be
right,
a sportsman,
let's start.
Bob.
You're welcome.
He's a real sportsman. I see him playing badminton every day. All right, Bob, we're going to start with you for our audience score. There are over 100,000 audience rankings for this film. Yes. So carefully choose your aggregate for the audience.
The sheer number of people weighing in on this has to level it out a little more. I still think it's going to be pretty damn high, though. Let's see if Straight Chilling are men of the people. What was our aggregate here? Was it 3.8? 76, please.
76. All right. Soju, what about you? Where are you
I might
at?
take the high end. I might count on this being a classic. I think Bob made a right call saying that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and it's just not everybody's going to love this. It's problematic in some ways, but I'm going to bank on it being a horror classic and the horror squad coming out. So I'll give it the 80. I'll give it the 80.
80. All right. Soju, it's you again, my friend. 84%.
That's a hell yeah sweep. It's been a while.
Rob is very
Not long
pleased, as you
enough.
can hear.
Not long enough.
Bob, would you care to give
That's hell yeet for me.
another hell yeet?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeet sweep.
It's like eating my vegetables. Like, God damn.
It's good for you, Bob. It's good
not.
for you.
It is not.
Makes you a strong sportsman.
I'm only feeding your ego. It does nothing for me. Trust.
Juice is
So-
happy. Bob is happy.
As I always do, I am going to read a
As you
negative
tell
review.
yourself. Yeah, okay, go ahead, man.
I am going to read a negative review at random because they're typically funnier or not. I mean, pretty fairly haven't
Not
been recently, but we're doing it anyway. Here's one. Doubtless, The Evil Dead was meant to be a sort of spoof, but in every genre by now, there are too many dud movies claiming spoof status. I don't think this person understands what a spoof is or what this movie's supposed to be spoofing.
Yeah, like
Yeah, this was written in 2010, so no excuse, none.
watch more movies, movie reviewer.
Yeah,
Jeez.
what do you think a spoof is exactly? What is this spoofing?
Yeah, what is it spoofing? Nope.
I genuinely can't tell you. I mean, you could argue that Evil Dead 2 spoofs Evil Dead 1 a little bit.
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Just say words.
Straight chilling crew,
Whatever.
track this man down. Make
Get
him,
him.
make him
Let's
explain
not-
himself.
Let's not abuse the limited power that we do have.
Let's dox this fucker.
I don't want to dox him. I just want him to explain himself.
Want his address.
I don't want you to dox them, says Soju, winking at the camera the whole time.
I don't. Every time.
Ooh,
I say
behind
a
the
word,
scenes,
I'm
it's real, man. It's real. Yeah, don't attack anybody, please. I'm good though. I think that's about it.
We don't have that kind of power.
Not yet. People aren't even getting tattoos yet.
I don't
Once
want.
we reach
Yeah, but this
tattoo
shit doesn't
status-
go away.
It has
If
been
we have,
discussed.
if we attain power in the next several years, this shit's still out there, and the wrong person.
Power.
Who knows?
We're about to marry people, and we're about to give tattoos to people.
So here's our next two big checklists for
giving the tattoos?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Here's the next big the milestone for
Threshold.
straight chilling: marrying people and tattoos. Okay,
And
so-
doxing.
And remember, happy soju, happy life. That's what Bob has learned today. So-
Lies
Yeah, if you keep your
on
soju
lies.
happy, happy life.
No.
Make sure to
Happy
please
juice,
your soju, everyone.
Happy life.
Yep. Straight chin. We'll even do your taxes if you want.
Nope,
We got
I
you
won't
covered.
do
Rob will certainly attempt to do your taxes, and he will go to prison.
We will invest your money wisely. Just give it all to us first, and we got you covered.
There's Bob's jet ski money. He got it. He found a way.
Daddy needs a new blue. But before
It's $100 at night.
before we get into that, it's totally time for some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Now, Bob, you had a slew of trivia you wanted to somehow send to me. I'm going to be completely honest. Well, a couple things. One, I've been drinking a
Okay.
scotch.
Yep.
We had
Whoa.
a happy hour before
We did.
this podcast. But also, Bob, I'm not super attached to this segment. So if you wanted to take over it, especially for this episode, I have it pulled up. I have the standard, trivia or whatever, but I don't feel super attached to this. So if you would like to take it, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
Oh man, really married to
I
the segment.
inherited
huh?
this from Randy's distaste for trivia.
Yep. I thank you every day for taking this curse off my hands.
Yeah, I'll read some of this off real quick. So the original title of this movie was Book of the Dead. I already mentioned Sam Raimi was 20 when he was filming this. He was set on directing a horror movie. He opted to shoot a proof of concept short film. Randy, you mentioned this. It was described as a prototype that would attract interest to financiers to raise funds for a full-length project. The short film, titled Within the Woods, Raimi shot for $1,600.
God damn.
He eventually raised $375,000 to shoot the feature-length Evil Dead movie. The crew initially attempted to shoot in Sam Raimi's hometown of Royal Oak, Michigan. Instead, they eventually landed on Morristown, Tennessee. During production, the 13 crew members all stayed at the cabin, leading to several people sleeping in the same room. The crew apparently they were all very inexperienced. Obviously, they were very young. They quoted making this movie as a comedy of errors. The first day of filming led to them getting lost in the woods during a scene. Several crew members were injured during the shoot, and because of the cabin's remoteness, they really just couldn't find any medical assistance anywhere near them. So they were left to their own. To accommodate Raimi's style of direction, several elaborate low-budget rigs had to be built since the crew couldn't afford a camera dolly. One involved, they called it a Vaso cam, which relied on a mounted camera that was slid down a long wooden platform to create a more fluid sense of motion. I also kind of already mentioned this. They tried to recreate a Steadicam, but they called it a, quote, shaky cam. Basically, they just mounted a camera to a piece of plywood, and they'd had two people run with it on either side.
I love that. That's how they did like the most iconic thing. Like one of the big things about this movie is the point of view, monster point of view cam, which I know people give this movie a lot of credit for that, even though it's not the first to do that by any means. But I don't know. They did a great job for having no budget to just use plywood. Oh, hey, welcome back, Soj. You couldn't even bother to be around for trivia
for your segment.
What?
Welcome back.
I've been here the whole time.
Behind the scenes tells no lies.
That's true. Damn.
The final sequence of the evil that basically goes throughout the entire cabin and shoots out the front door into Ash's face was filmed by strapping a camera on a bike, and somebody just rode a bike around the whole cabin and out the front door, and that's how they achieved that final sequence there.
It looked much lower than that. Damn.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they was mounted
Well,
low
they
on the
definitely
bike.
sped that shit up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, just
definitely.
general, the shot looked low.
Raimi.
Oh, low. I thought you said slow.
No, low.
Slow and low. Texas style. Sam Raimi was quoted as saying he enjoyed torturing his actors.
Sorry, a little late with that one.
He, per usual, he believed that capturing pain and anger on screen, I guess, was like more achievable if his actors were actually angry and in pain. So he was okay with inserting some misery into their lives. Several actors were inadvertently stabbed or thrown into objects during production, causing injury.
Damn.
During the last few days on set, conditions had become so extreme the crew began burning furniture to stay warm. Since at that point, only exterior shots were needed.
This could have been a last known footage film. Like,
it could have been.
Legitimately.
They since only exterior shots were needed, they ended up burning nearly every piece of furniture on set. Yeah, they were filming in December and January in Michigan, so cold as shit. Or in Tennessee, rather, not Michigan. After the extensive filming process, Raimi had a, quote, mountain of footage that he had to put together. He chose a Detroit Editing Association where he met Edna Paul, who eventually cut the film together. Paul's assistant was none other than Joel Coen from the Coen brothers.
Oh, shit.
Who helped edit this movie. The film's first cut...
Around here, that means big money.
Indeed. The first cut of this movie ran 117 minutes long, damn near 2 hours.
That is unnecessary.
Yeah, wildly unnecessary. Which it's crazy to know that, especially knowing that the screenplay was 65 pages long. Like that's insane.
That long? I
Well,
don't
Becky
know how long
pointed
it
out
is.
helpfully that while trying to sleep in the other room, she's like, "Is this movie only screaming?"
Yes.
That's what she
Dude,
said. to me.
once his girlfriend like kicks in, her giggles and screeches, whew, man, they were on another
It's a
level.
lot. It's a lot.
So the average screenplay is 1 page per minute of film.
Oh, okay.
So
I
like
see.
60 minutes versus 120, 60 pages versus 120 minute like movie is insane. The final runtime of this is 85 minutes, which is way more palatable. Apparently most of the cut scenes were just like characters lamenting about how they were unable to save their friends. So just a lot of like screaming, wallowing, misery. So they cut a lot of that shit. Raimi opted to have a very theatrical premiere using custom tickets and wind tracks set in the theater. He ended up ordering an ambulance to just sit outside the theater to build some atmosphere. All these theatrics were very much inspired by William Castle, who did similar things to attract audiences
For sure.
To see his movie. Turnout was solid for the premiere. They had over 1,000 patrons show up, that's got to be a big motherfucking theater for 1,000 people.
Damn. 1,000? Good Lord.
Yeah. This also premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 1982.
The
Pecan Film Festival in Mississippi, no doubt. No.
There you go.
The Cannes Film Festival in France, Stephen King was in attendance. He saw this movie, and he quoted it saying that it was registering things he had never seen in a movie before, and that helped garner a lot of positivity around the movie. Stephen King talking good shit, that always works wonders.
Man, 21-year-old or whatever, Sam Raimi must have been so fucking stoked.
Yeah.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Dude,
I was thinking about it.
And old and fucking Stephen King talking like sweet shit about your movie. You'd be
Sweet,
like, hell
sweet
yeah.
shit.
The only analogous filmmakers I can think of in terms of like success for this level of DIY horror are, and I can't remember their names, but the crew from Blair Witch Project and how they experienced success. But like, can you they didn't have Stephen King on their ass, and they didn't have they also didn't have the immediate follow up that like just rocked the world or whatever. You know what I mean? They didn't manage to keep it up on that same level because they didn't have the level of style that Sam has. I don't think
they didn't direct no Spider-Man.
It was more gimmicky.
That's for sure.
It's crazy.
The film's release was met with a lot of controversy because of it's obviously very gruesome. It received an X rating and eventually became labeled a video nasty in the UK. The Coen brothers and Raimi eventually collaborated on a screenplay, which was released shortly after The Evil Dead. The film was called Crime Wave. It was a box office failure. The production of the movie was a, quote, disaster, according to Campbell, who stated that the missteps, like Crime Wave, usually lead to an end of a director's career. This actually speaks to Evil Dead 2. Other people involved with the film expressed similar disappointment with the project. Fortunately, Raimi had the studio support to make a sequel to The Evil Dead, which he initially decided to make out of desperation. He was really, I guess, just trying to save his career here because Crime Wave was a total disaster.
That's interesting.
The last bit of trivia I have is there's a shitload of unofficial sequels that were made in Italy. Those fucking Italians, man.
Of course there was.
They don't give a shit.
There's probably an unofficial Straight Chilling 2 over there or some shit.
God damn those sons of bitches.
Straight deuce.
We're branching out into xenophobia.
Catalan, get on this, my guy. I know you're from Italy. I know you got your ear to the ground out there.
There was a film known as La Casa, or The House, directed by Joe D'Amato in 1988. That was like a sequel to Evil Dead. D'Amato also produced two more films labeled as sequels to The Evil Dead, called Ghost House and Witchery, which those were actually both released on a double bill from Scream
Cold
Factory.
Stone Witchery.
You can pick those up. Ghost House is actually pretty baller. I've seen that. Witchery is damn near unwatchable, but it does star Linda Blair and David fucking Hasselhoff, so that's interesting.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
The Hoff.
What?
The Hoff. Yeah, it's weird, man. Also, in 1990, D'Amato produced his final La Casa film called Beyond Darkness, La Casa 5, and then House 2 was reissued in Italy as La Casa 6.
Damn.
And then the horror show, completely unrelated, just like House 2, was then just released in Italy as La Casa 7, because why the fuck not? So there's like seven Evil Dead movies in Italy.
Good Lord.
God damn.
And that's all the trivia I have for The Evil Dead. Let's go ahead. It's time to go hunting. Let's do it.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Juice, what's Cooter? Why are we hunting him?
Well, I gotta say, it's pretty nice not doing two segments back to back.
You're welcome.
I should get to kick back over here. Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter. We want Cooter with the most points. 5 points are sexual deviance, smug arrogance, manipulation, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, is there a Cooter in Evil Dead?
I mean, I think you gotta go Deadite.
Yeah, I think so too.
If it's
You gotta go with just the whole crew.
So I think we can nail them on sexual deviance.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Obviously.
I mean, I was gonna say just trees because of that specifically, but I don't think that quite covers the other points. So
Yeah. Okay, so
and it's
we
all
got
one
rape
entity,
in
I
the
think, or
books.
like a group of them. So
Yeah. We got rape in the books, so check
Manipulation.
That one off the one.
Certainly.
Manipulation.
Yep.
The one specific point that stands out to me is when it's Ash's girlfriend Linda, and she transforms back into Linda after being a Deadite for quite some time, and teasing him and laughing and screaming and attacking.
right after he slaps the shit out of her too.
So we've got manipulation, we got sexual deviance on lock. What
Yes.
other points can we get
Look
them on?
and attire. I would argue that the Deadites look weird.
They look like Cooters. Are they wearing a
They look like
fedora?
Cooters to me. That's a neck beard. It's a whole different breed.
one per crew. One per crew.
A whole crew
Yeah.
full of fedoras. Damn.
I mean, shit, like, you got the milky eyes, you got the stop motion faces. It's a pretty weird look these guys have. It's not typical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like they puke a lot of milk. I don't know if you guys
Ugh.
noticed that.
Yeah, they do.
Linda specifically is just constantly puking up milk. Like what's going on? I don't know.
She's lactose intolerant, man. Come on.
Apparently.
Are they? Oh, smug arrogance. I think we can
Yes.
nail them on smug arrogance.
I definitely think we can
Playing
see-
with their
yeah.
food constantly.
Yeah, especially
That's
if what
literally
you
the
guys
whole
say
movie to
holds
me.
up, where they just don't possess Ash because they think they can fuck with him nonstop, and then he gets their asses by throwing the book in the fire. Then
Yeah, but then he doesn't really because
yeah.
the thing comes back alive
I guess
because it's
that's true.
always playing with him.
yeah, so smug arrogance. So we've already hit Cooter status on the Deadites. Check. The only other one,
Patheticness.
overall patheticness. I don't
Not
feel like
really,
they're
yeah.
pathetic.
No, I don't think they're all powerful for all intents and
Yeah,
purposes
they
in this
kick
movie.
a lot of ass apparently. So yeah,
do
but
whatever
still
they
hitting
want.
pretty solid.
Yeah.
The looking attire, a little weaker point, but the other three are solid. So 3.5 for sure. I think we can book them, boys.
I think so.
so.
Too, yeah.
I don't see any other contenders either.
I don't think so. I mean, the only other one would be maybe Scotty Too Hottie. By the way, Randy, you know who Scotty Too Hottie is, right?
The wrestler?
Yeah, the wrestler.
Oh,
Yes,
Rob knows too.
Yeah, even I know. Fuck.
If you don't know who Scotty
but
Too
this
Hottie
isn't
is,
Scotty Too
you gotta
Hottie.
look
This
that
here's
shit
Scotty
up.
Too Snotty. I'll stand by that.
He was the only other one that popped in my mind. I might give him like
Yeah.
overall patheticness by like bailing on everybody and then getting his ass kicked by a bunch of trees.
Yeah, but he does like beat some wholesale ass.
He does.
Does some work.
Start,
He
yeah.
drop
does.
kicks a bish.
Now, to be fair, he's just kicking a bish down the stairs,
Yeah,
but he does.
but it's
it.
good.
That's
And
scene.
Ash isn't doing shit for a while.
Yeah,
Like,
he
that
does.
scene, oh my
he's the
God.
only one doing anything
It's
until
true.
he dies and Ash has
It's
to.
Yeah.
true. It's true, but he just
he has smug arrogance. I don't know that he has manipulation really.
no
Sexual deviance.
smug
No evidence of
arrogance.
that.
Yeah.
Looking attire, he looks pretty standard for the time.
Does. Yeah, so I don't think he
Pathetic,
hits.
maybe a little bit. Yeah, I don't think he hits, but he hits a
So-
couple of points with some resonance. Not a
Yeah,
ton.
he was
Yeah.
the only one that might even come close. But I think we just got to lock it up at the old Deadites.
Yeah, it's the Deadites for sure.
Okay.
Tight. We got him.
Arrivederci, baby.
We got him.
Lock him up. Throw away the key. Gentlemen, it's time for the social hour. We're letting our hair down. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Oh, yeah. Randy, what you been watching?
Okay, so another light week for me. I've still been playing Pokemon Snap. It's still very, very fun and very relaxing for me. I have also been watching a channel on YouTube that I haven't looked at very closely for some time, but is very much close to my heart and has been in the past, which is Red Letter Media. I've been watching a lot of their Best of the Worst series, which Justin, have you ever watched any of their stuff besides the Plinkett reviews?
No.
Those are the big ones for them. So yeah, they do a bunch of movie reviews or whatever. They're very sardonic, and it's more podcast than it is movie or than it is video for the most part. But they actually got like fucking Patton Oswalt and Macaulay Culkin and all these people to come on the show. So like they're just these dudes in Milwaukee who talk about movies, and they just have a really good eye for some shit. They're not always like on the money, I don't think, but they watch these Best of the Worst, which is literally like a game of chance dictates that they watch, 1 to 3 really bad fucking VHS tapes, and they just talk about them at length and make fun of them for the most part. And it's very, 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 very engaging for me. That hits a lot of my pleasure points. I'm very much a Mystery Science Theater kid. That's where most of my humor comes from. So it's right in that realm. So I've been enjoying that quite a bit. Only seen a handful since I started picking it up again, but those guys have a great reputation. They're beloved on fucking YouTube, that's for sure. And I just kind of never looked back into their stuff after the Plinkett reviews for Star Wars kind of took the world by storm.
Red Letter Media, huh?
Yeah, they reviewed like the prequel trilogy in a character voice. I think we watched it together at one point, or I certainly watched it with Drew and Rob at one point. But it's a lot of fun. I know Drew's a huge fan of theirs. And then the last thing that I watched was...
They do the half in the bag.
Yeah, they do half in the bag, right. Okay, they do half in the bag. They do Best of the Worst. They do a couple other things.
Man, these dudes are fucking huge now, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. They're like pretty well respected and around the YouTube parts. Rob, you know Red Letter Media, right?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Okay. I was just talking... Yeah. I don't always agree with their opinions or whatever, but like that's why I really gravitate towards the Best of the Worst series, because it's all just like ripping on like mostly dog shit tapes that aren't even movies most of the time. There are a lot of times like a shitty exercise tape or like just the shittiest shit you could possibly imagine can't be fun to watch. And they make like fucking Macaulay Culkin watch that shit with them. It's really funny. Anyway, and then the other thing I've been watching was a movie that came out on Netflix, I believe just yesterday or just Friday, which was The Woman in the Window. You guys familiar with that, with Amy Adams?
No, never heard of that. Good. Bad? So
it's, I didn't know much. I didn't know anything about it. Becky wanted to throw it on, and I had seen it was trending on Twitter, so I'm assuming it's brand new. I thought it was pretty weak. It's got great actors in it. It's got Gary Oldman. It's got Amy Adams. It's got Julianne Moore. It's got a stacked motherfucking cast. But it's an adaptation, I found out later, an adaptation from a mystery thriller novel. And it just plays like the pulpiest, most predictable fucking story from a pulpy novel that you can imagine. It reminded me a lot of a movie I talked about recently, not Premonitions. What is it? Deadly Illusions, but that movie was like about a schlocky horror thriller writer. And whether or not she was making it all up or if it was really happening, that sort of thing. And so it like played in that they would make it pretty schlocky and sort of like soap opera-y. This movie doesn't have that. And despite the immense talent of the cast here, it's just kind of like, it's very predictable by numbers sort of tropey thing. It's sort of like same complaint I had with The Mummy, which is that it felt like too tropey, and even as good as the actors are, the stuff they're given to work with just doesn't elevate anything. It's just kind of
still bitching about The Mummy.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's just a similar complaint, but like, I don't know. I know people are really upset with me for that, and I'm sorry, but it's like, it just like this particular movie does the same shit where it's like, it feels like it could be a movie. It could be in a movie about making this movie. It's like, okay, we want to make a movie that's a schlocky, or not schlocky. It's like a mystery thriller, and then it's just really bombastic and silly seeming because it's so predictable.
What movie was that? I missed the title.
There's no twist. It's called The Woman in the Window.
Oh, I've never seen it.
It's brand new. It's got Amy Adams and Gary Oldman and Julianne Moore and a couple other people, and it's a stacked cast. Like I said, I love all those actors. They're all really talented actors, but they just don't have a lot of good material to work with. The best thing I can say is that it's color graded well.
Who is in this again?
Am I going to say this a third time? Is that
I'm
really?
fucking with you. I'm fucking
Oh,
with you.
okay. I couldn't tell for sure, and
What was the name again? I'm just fucking with him.
I love being incontinent.
So yeah, that's what I've been watching. Those are the movies. I don't really recommend Woman in the Window, but it is also like inoffensively bad. It's not like terrible. It's something you could throw on a Sunday afternoon and enjoy yourself, I guess. I didn't love it though.
I guess.
All right, cool. Juice, what you been watching?
One of Randy's things that he's mentioned a lot, which I feel like maybe I've seen clips of, but I didn't grow up with it, and I don't think I'd seen it all the way through, but I can't quite remember. Anyways, Return to Oz. I mentioned last week that I was going through some classic Disney stuff, and just scrolling through Disney Plus, I came across Return to Oz, which was interesting to me because Wizard of Oz wasn't Disney, and Wizard of Oz is not on Disney Plus, and yet Return to Oz is. So I don't know what the story is there.
Well, Disney owns MGM now, but it wasn't made as a Disney product at the time. It
wasn't made as a Disney movie? Okay.
Right. But I don't know. There's some sort of rights issues maybe about that.
Yeah, because Wizard of Oz is not on Disney Plus that I saw. Only Return to Oz. So anyway... I watched that. It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. Yes.
A lot darker. I get and also it's just not made as well. But the whole premise is like Dorothy is put into kind of this insane asylum to be cured of her delusions through electrical shock therapy before she goes back to this twisted ass Oz. So it kind of reminds me of those games too, of like Alice in Wonderland, and it's a very similar kind of premise, just in general, this girl kind of going to this fantastical world, but of like, not being believed when she gets back, and then going back and it's all twisted and fucked up. So it's
what's so weird about that though is that those movies like the Alice in Wonderland things that are kind of dark and like Tim Burton-y or whatever, those are not explicitly for children. This movie was made as a sequel.
True.
Even though it wasn't like property rights wise. It's made as a sequel to fucking Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And it's not a musical really and it's not bright.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's extremely dark and grim.
But also, I believe it came out at least the late 70s, early 80s.
It was early 80s.
Yeah, and
it was like 88, I think.
You gotta think of shit, like we've talked about that before, like Dark Crystal and shit. I mean, there's some fucked up shit going on.
That was the same era, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they weren't scared to kind of dive into those realms back then. But anyways, I watched that. I was curious.
What did you think about The Wheelers? That's the one that everybody always reacts to.
As an adult, it's stupid. I mean,
I didn't like those. Were not the thing that scared me, but that seems to be what everybody points at as being scary.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I was freaked out by Mombi. Mombi freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah. Anyways, so I watched that. Interesting. I started watching the Son of Sam documentary. Haven't finished it. But I started watching that. That's the newest Netflix one. The last one was about a robbery, so it's kind of cool to kind of get back to some like true crime stuff, like actual. It's another one of those things where it's history, and like I know Son of Sam, but you don't know the finer details. You don't really know what the atmosphere was like. You don't really know what people who were living through that time, like how it affected their world and their culture. And that's one of the strongest points that I like about these Netflix documentaries. One of my favorite ones so far, I think they came out in January, was about that the Ripper in England. And what I love that because they were talking to people in like how it affected the 80s, how it affected like feminism at the time, and all these things, like how it affected people's real world daily kind of tasks, while you also get to see these bigger details of like what the cops are thinking, how they're trying to track these people down. So it's cool. I like it in those aspects, and I like that it's kind of getting back in this Netflix about Son of Sam, because I don't know the finer details. I know the broad strokes, and I've seen it in like other media, but I like getting into that kind of nitty gritty aspect. That's what I like about those Netflix docu-series. So that's about more Anthony Bourdain. I watched like his Japan episode. I watched his Quebec episode, his London episode. So been watching more of those. Still digging it, of course. Rip Anthony, man.
Pour one out.
Robert, what you been watching?
Few things. Still working my way through Bob's Burgers. I think we're on like season 9 now.
Damn.
Show's fantastic. It really never sours. Each season is great. Can't recommend it enough. Also, I didn't mention at the top of the show, we had Joe Bob this past Friday. He showed Mandy for the first film, and then Dead and Buried was the second film. Dude, every time I see Mandy, I just like it more and more. That movie...
That's such a fucking great movie.
It just holds up so well. Joe Bob had some pretty interesting commentary on it. They said they tried to reach out to Nick Cage and get him on, but I guess he just didn't respond. Like, how fucking epic would it be for Nick Cage to be on talking to Joe Bob? That would be fucking
I feel
great.
like Nick Cage just doesn't want to talk about his work
Probably.
at all.
That's fair.
Which I can't blame him for it. I mean, especially in his case, because that's a wide berth of options to talk about.
True. It's a
You
lot.
should be signing yourself up for some shit.
It's a lot. But yeah, thanks to the crew that hung out on Friday. Man, squad's been deep every week. If you're interested in joining us, every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we got a live watch party for Joe Bob. We'll blast a link to join the Zoom watch party just before showtime.
Yeah.
Also, I watched this new Netflix movie. It's called The Mitchells vs. the Machines. So it's an animated film. And as soon as we put it on, it reminded me, like the animation style, it just reminded me a lot of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which I know we all watched back in the day and really enjoyed the comedy of that. The comedy of this movie is like right on par with it, man. I'd say if you have seen Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and you like it, you gotta watch this fucking movie.
Well, yeah, it's a Phil Lord, Christopher Miller thing.
It's hilarious. Like, bust a gut funny, like had me rolling consistently. It's basically about artificial intelligence taking over the world, and there's just this like normal ass family who's trying to survive and eventually take down the evil AI that's running the world. It's super hilarious. I don't know. I can't recommend it enough. Danny McBride voices the father of the family. So if you're a fan of McBride, you got a little bit of that in there. The cast, like, I can't remember everybody else is in it, but the cast is just fucking stacked. The voice actors are just incredible. Check it out. Mitchells vs. the Machines. That's really all I've been watching this week. We got one more segment to get into, and that is, of course, our Hotline Scream.
Hotline Scream.
If you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got 4 voicemails this week. First up, we're going to hear from old 2 p.m. Todd. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Ew. 771-990-30104 Northeast 20th Street, Northeast 3rd Avenue, 33909, yellow, black, green, blue, speed limit 30, maroon, 239-300. Hey guys, 2 p.m. Todd. How do? Calling in about the prompt. Spectacular clown episode as always. Talking about sleep paralysis. I unfortunately frequently have this bizarre dream where I'm trying to get pick where you're trying to go. Like, am I walking through a mall? Am I going through a playground, a field, a street, whatever it is? But I start moving really, really slow in the dream, and it feels like something is pressing down on my chest, and I start to not be able to breathe. So it's almost like you're being drowned. And as that feeling seeps in more and more and more in the dream, you start to kick or flail or whatever else, trying to get your body to wake up. And it's kind of frightening, because in the dream you feel like you're starting to die, and then you start like kicking your legs. Like mine, it seems that if I really start to kick my legs physically start to kick, and then that gets me out of the dream. But when I wake up from that dream, it is such a terrifying feeling. And my wife over the years knows when I have one of these, because she'll be like, "Are you okay?" Because it is it's just one of those things you can't even explain unless it happens to you. Anyways, so that was my feedback. You guys are great. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep chilling. Gray, brown, blue.
So I think that we may have just assisted in activating a sleeper agent that's going to kill some ambassador somewhere. I feel like there's
Todd's getting wilder and wilder.
Somehow, some way.
However, I will say 2 p.m. Todd lives in Florida, right? That we know, Tampa, right?
So I don't know exactly where he's from, Florida, but I think has been living in the Midwest somewhere.
Okay, I was about to say 2 p.m. Todd. If you ever find yourself around the Jacksonville area, call me up real quick and let's get a beer. Even though I feel like I owe that beer to like several people already in Jacksonville that I cannot find the time to get with.
True.
Justin's really anxious to have somebody list colors to him.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah,
I need to get with you, Matt. By the way, and we need to find that time.
It's a matter of time. It will happen. We're coming for you, Matt. We're coming for you. 2 p.m. Todd. That sounds fucking terrifying. I'm really glad I've never experienced anything like that before in my life. That's fucked up, man. Also, don't die in your dreams, please. Don't do it.
Not supposed to.
Not supposed to.
Not supposed to do it.
Also, like, I don't know, maybe don't murder anybody if you are a sleeper agent or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't approve. We don't approve.
One idea I would like to maybe pose for a Hotline Scream for next week, since 2 p.m. Todd brought it up. We talked about sleep paralysis last time, but that kind of got me thinking his description. Do you guys, or does anybody that wants to call in, have a consistent type of dream that kind of drives your fears in real life, that you've had throughout your life or recently or whatever? Something that...
There's mine. No, I'm just kidding.
Use that pump. It's the fucking worst. So my consistent like nightmare dream, I said I don't really have the sleep paralysis except for like kind of feeling, but I never feel complete dread when I'm doing that. And it's this weird in between place of sleep and awake. But in my dreams, the one thing I consistently have is a very steep bridge, to where most of the time it's almost like speed racer style, and a lot of the times it manifests itself as the Dames Point Bridge, which is a huge bridge in Jacksonville. But I'm either driving like all like vertically, and I have that pressure of like this isn't gonna hold, and it never works out. Either like my car veers off, or I flip upside down, or sometimes I'm driving on a bridge and it collapses. So either way, I'm on a very very huge bridge or road that's very steep, and like I just don't make it. And so it kind of drives my fears a little bit of like heights, just kind of heights in general, like being super high and being scared I'm going to fall or whatever. So that is a dream I have had like since I was young, and I just had one recently within the past month, I would say. And so it's something that just kind of has constantly been in my life, and to where even when I like need to drive over the James Point Bridge, I get a little like, you know, kind of tense up a little bit because it kind of manifests itself there. But yeah, what about you guys? You guys got any consistent dreams?
She licked my asshole a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's the horrifying. Oh God, she's near my ass.
No, not the ass.
She's
Not the ass.
Don't touch my ass.
Oh God. No, I don't think I have an example of that.
I don't either.
Interesting.
I very rarely remember my dreams.
Okay.
So if there's any sort of consistency amongst them, like I just really am unaware of it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Man, I've had that dream since like my whole life. Just even before I could drive, I had that dream.
Yeah. I think I'm going to start having dreams about people calling in and listing colors at me. I think that might happen.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know. Go back to bitching about Beef O'Brady's. Like, go to Beef O'Brady's
don't dictate.
And order some
You don't
food,
tell
and
2
then-
p.m.
and then
Todd how
call
to 2
us-
p.m. Todd.
Call us while you got a mouthful of beef at Beef O'Brady's. And
Oh
like,
yeah,
just
I want to hear
describe it.
I want to hear
Yeah.
complaints straight from the horse's mouth,
I want like
from the jaws of death.
I want to hear some live mastication, sir.
I want the people
Beef
next to you to
O'Brady's.
ask you to please be quiet because they can't enjoy their beefs.
And I want to hear you tell them to shut the fuck up.
Damn.
Thanks for calling, Todd. Always good to hear from you. Next up, we're going to hear from Brandon. Let's hear what he has to say.
Bob, it's currently about 15 minutes into the movie here. Friday, second movie on Friday night. Pretty sure you owe Kyle $25. So I don't know how you're gonna get that to him. Snail mail, maybe. Who knows? E-transfer. That's always a possibility. You send him some free merch. That's a possibility. Sky's the limit on that one. Just eating some Jolly Ranchers. Got some French fries in the air fryer. So I'm ready to go. I'm still going strong. Wake up, Bob. Anyways, this is Brandon. Should have mentioned that at the top. I'm going to peace out here with the old zippity zappity. Hell skeet. Hell yeet, my boys. Peace.
Listen to me, Brandon. You pay Bob. Bob doesn't pay you. You understand me?
I love how out of context everything he said is complete nonsense.
Yeah, I feel like
That's
I feel like we're getting a lot of serial killer calls this week.
Yeah, that was from Friday night. I went to bed like maybe 10 minutes into the second feature because it was getting late. And Kyle has this ongoing bet that I've never made that I owe him money if I fall asleep within the first 15 minutes of the second movie. And to that, like I've never made this bet. I'm not paying anybody anything, but I also just remembered that Kyle was supposed to send me some beer like 5 months ago.
Oh,
My
shit.
dog, that shit is not lost in the mail. You just didn't send it.
Oh,
So
shit.
we'll see what's what when I get my beer, okay?
I will say, I actually came over for Mandy this time, and by the end of it, I was tired. However, I forgot to mention what you've been watching. I don't think anyone is ever going to top Jeremiah Sand as King Cooter.
I don't think so.
no.
Yeah.
I was blown.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen Mandy since we covered it, or at least like maybe that same year. Maybe I watched it again to refresh for top 2018 or whatever. But damn if Jeremiah Sand isn't fucking King Cooter, highest on every single point, as high as you could fucking
Cooterus
imagine.
Maximus.
Dude, Cooter's Maximus for sure.
Yeah,
That is the case.
You can buy that Jeremiah Sand vinyl in real life.
Yeah,
now.
I saw that.
I forget who picked it up. Somebody got it on
I don't
the
think
Slack.
I think we all need that.
Yeah, like I kind of want it.
Have they been heard from again, or are they
So
just
I can-
stuck
Let's
masturbating
dip
for the rest of
into
the time?
old-
Exactly.
Let's dip into the old straight chillin' funds to make sure we all get one of those.
Oh, yeah, just so we have the recording of the ultimate cooter in hand.
I think
It might
we
have been
need that.
Mike. I think it was Michael that picked it up. Actually, he made a lot of masturbation jokes about it.
Damn.
Well, I mean,
happy
is it just the
masturbation.
one
Jokes.
song?
Jokes.
I don't know what's on it,
Jokes.
to be honest. I'm not sure.
I think we need it.
Yeah,
Songs to beat it to.
totally.
Angrily beat it too.
Thanks for hanging out on Friday, Brandon. Thanks for calling in and leaving a bizarre ass voicemail. I hope your Jolly Ranchers and French fries were super, super tasty.
Real train of thought shit, Brandon. Thanks.
For sure. Next up, we're going to hear from the motherfucker Kyle himself. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hey boys, it's Kyle. Just want to say hi. Just wanted to tell you, great job on the sorry, I had to turn down my Joe Bob's here. The Killer Clowns review, awesome. I fell asleep during it. I was told that Randy brought back pumpkins, which I've been pledging for a while, you know, because I bought a shirt and now I just look like a goofball wearing it. But yeah, judging by the screen, I think Bob is asleep, which makes me up $50. Can I get a hell yeet? Anywho, thank you guys so much. You know, we all really appreciate you guys doing this every weekend for us as fans. And yeah, it's like always. I think it's we're 4 or 5 years in. It's been a blast, and well, I'll talk to you soon. I'll probably talk to you next fucking week. Who knows? You know. Stay tuned. All right, take care, guys. Bye.
Bob, you just owe money all over town. Am I going to get a fucking pinky toe in the mail?
No, put my beer in the mail, Kyle.
God damn.
Damn. It's
Well,
nuts
yeah, you know,
that people, like, for people to say, I've been listening to you like 4 or 5 years, and to know we've been doing this 7 years, and to know that there are people out there who've been almost listening to us as
The
long.
whole time. Yeah.
Like, shouts outs to Nicole. She's the longest one I can remember.
Ow.
But that's nuts. Thanks so much for listening and talking about getting straight chillin' tattoos. That shit's bonkers.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. Definitely shit we never anticipated happening.
Yeah.
It's
And
been a fun
legally
ride.
speaking, we do not endorse it, but
Yeah, we
please
do.
do what you feel.
I fully endorse
Hell,
it.
Randy will pay for it.
I've got the ego
Oh,
to
will
endorse
I?
this.
Is it coming out of the $50 you owe them, or what?
My ego certainly will support this.
I'll say
Justin's
this though. I mean,
ego
it
will
is
pay
kind of
for
funny.
it.
No.
It's kind of funny. I never really thought about it, but I did. I didn't intentionally ease off the pumpkins bump, but I mean, the fact that I have like a T-shirt with it on there, it is. I mean,
quite ironic.
How about we go ahead and delete the baby bump and just replace it with the pumpkin spot?
I love the pumpkin bump. Like, no, that is displeasing. Hit us with a pumpkins, please.
no, man, it's not. 'Tis not the season.
But
Yeah,
you
it's
were
not a
last
season.
episode, dog.
Look, man. Sometimes the mood strikes, and sometimes there's a gun to your head, and I don't deal with
I
terrorists.
don't like
okay?
this gatekeeper bullshit. Like this, nah.
You know what you sound like?
All right, fine.
Start cutting your privileges
we got-
over here, Randy.
You're gonna cut my privileges, boss.
We got one more voicemail. Next up, we're hearing from old Tommy P. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, gentlemen. Tom, calling in. Because I heard you were talking about Evil Dead, and that's the movie that has a cabin in it. I'm a big fan of cabin living. It's clean living. Except, you know, when there's some bears out there or, you know, whatever's in that movie. You think they get cleaning deposit back on that cabin? Probably not. Just thinking about that. All right, I rated a total of 3 out of 5, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Ah, yes, the famous bear scene from Evil Dead.
The bear
Who could forget?
he said he gave it a 3 out of 5. That's pretty decent.
That's pretty decent for a movie that's not The Evil Dead. I don't think. I don't know what movie he's talking about.
I am not 100% sure either. I don't know. Bear? I don't know. Grizzly?
I feel like maybe he just
Grizzly?
he just like watched footage of a cabin or something.
Foodage. Yeah, I don't know, Tom. We probably missed. You probably made a really smart like inside joke or something that we just didn't get, and now here we are fumbling and bumbling. But thanks for calling.
It's either that or it's just a long string of train of thought calls this week.
Yeah, it could be the case. Yeah, if we missed something, feel free to fucking let us know, man. We'll talk about it next episode. Good to hear from you. Hope all is well, my brother.
Thanks, Tom.
Again, if you're listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Let us know
your consistent nightmares.
Yeah, if you got some fucked up nightmares. That's kind of a continuation of last week's.
Yeah, I just want to know if there's something that's like carried through your life that's dictated your...
Tell us about the weight that you carry with you through life.
Yeah. Air it out live for random strangers to hear, please.
Of course, Hotline Kinks is always open. So
Let us milk you for content, please.
Let us milk you.
Hey, we never got that Randy milk gift. So if you want to get on that from last
the Randy milk gift?
Yeah,
there's a
when you
gif?
were doing
That's right.
Milking the udders. Randy's got...
And we called for Randy to get his own gift.
Randy's got really loose wrists. Let me tell you.
I know what the udders need, baby.
Milking.
I know what the udders need.
Randy's got that full range of mobility. His wrists just go every which way. It's crazy.
I know milking wrists when I see them.
Some guys got it, some don't.
Man's
That's all I can say.
Got a true gift. It's wild. He's like triple jointed only in his wrists.
Damn.
Sure.
That does it for us here this week at Straight Chilling. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode, as always. So what do we land on? We doing the next Patreon pick? Is that what we're doing?
I think we kind of forgot to mention it too. We said it was okay to do a new movie.
Okay. What did we decide?
I think we landed on Oxygen.
Did we? Yeah. Randy doesn't want to cover Zack Snyder movie because it's too long.
Randy.
And Zack Snyder.
That was also your complaint, I want to point out, since we're going on record here.
Spiral is a little sketch because it's only in theaters and I haven't been able to find a stream yet. Oxygen is available to many people and it's Aja, and so I think let's do it. Let's do Oxygen on Netflix.
I'm down with Oxygen.
Me and Randy have decided.
I'm a big Oxygen guy.
You're 2-1.
I have much reservation, but I guess we'll talk about it.
Okay, well, as of recording, that's the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about Oxygen, and if it sucks, complain to
Bob,
Randy
you have picked
and,
many streaming VOD movies that have sucked. Ball sacks.
Oh, have I?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we'll talk about that next week. Watch Oxygen. It's only on Netflix. Slam your eyeballs into it. Until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. Don't forget about our weekly live watch parties with Joe Bob Briggs on Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to join in on our daily Slack channel conversations, just hit us up on one of our social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the fun. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Pumpkins.